Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Yep, and going forward from here, there are going to be lots of spoilers for the Crowns of Nyaxia series as a whole, so consider this your spoiler warning. And if you're saying to yourself, Danny, why are you starting with Fallen in the Kiss of Dusk? And why did you guys do, Slaying the Vampire Conqueror? What about the other books? Well, guess what? We started our podcast, if you're new here, with this series. So please go back and you will see that we ended months ago, around this time last year, actually. We had started our coverage of Crowns of Nyaxia, and we have covered all the way up through Songbird. And we also covered Six Scorched Roses and all those other ones. So naturally, we will be talking about all those characters and more in Fallen in the Kiss of Dusk. That's going to span over 3 episodes for this book. And so, yeah, we're going to talk lots and lots of spoilers for all of the whole Crowns of Nyaxia world. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
All right. So we've got the drink of the episode tonight, and I'm calling it The Fallen. And it is gloomy looking. It is very spooky and has it. Obviously, I wanted to do something. We're getting into fall, we're getting into spooky season, but The Fallen, the title, is significant of Misha's, what she's doing, what's going on. And we're talking about the god of death, of course, talking about Asar, and we're coming up from the Underworld, and then just this whole journey that we're going through, I thought was very relevant to have a drink that was related to that. And I went with this color, this darkish, gloomyish color, which I'll be frank, doesn't look super appetizing, but I will tell you what's in it. So it's basically like a sweeter margarita. It has tequila, triple sec, cranberry juice, fresh lime juice, and that's really important distinction. You don't want to use a concentrated lime juice. You want to use the real deal. A little touch of grenadine and black food coloring. So you combine all this, you shake it up. On our rim here, we have like a black sugared rim, and then I took the liberty of also putting some red and black food coloring on a slice of lime to give it that garnish. So if you're looking for like a Halloween-friendly cocktail that you want to have, or just something like spooky vibes, but also fits this book. I mean, I wanted truly what I was going for was a drink that had the color that was in the cover of the book. And I don't know, Michelle, what do you think? Do I think did I kind of get that?
I think you nailed it. Yeah, I think you did. It's fun.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. Cheers. Spooky season. You have literally just everything is covered in ash. There's smoke and ash coming off of Misha. There's, Lucy is literally like smoke and ash a lot of the time too. So
our girl.
Yeah, Lucy, good girl. So I love that.
Yeah, and it tastes good too. It's not overly sweet. I think there's a little bit of simple syrup in there too, but the tequila has that bite to it, of course, and then you have a little bit of the balance of the cranberry, which even has a bite to it too. So overall, we have the lime juice. It comes together really well. It's not super bite forward drink. It's very well balanced. It's good. It's a good cocktail. I would definitely have it any time of year, but I think it works super well with the coloring and the tonality of what we're covering in this book, especially at the start with parts 1 and 2. All right. So let's immerse ourselves back into Obatrace, and really like not even in Obatrace here at the beginning. We're kind of different parts of the Underworld. We've got a lot of places that we've been. If we're coming up from Songbird and the Heart of Stone, we leave off, of course, with Misha having died, and she kills Atraxas. And so now we have no sun. So that was another reason I went with a drink that was dark, because there's quite literally no sun in Obatrace anymore, because the sun god has been killed. And honestly, Atraxas is atrocious. Our OG listeners will catch that reference. But tonight we are going to be starting our exploration of The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk by the lovely Carissa Broadbent, New York Times best-selling author. And Carissa Broadbent, we're super proud of that. So whether you're reading along with us or you're just here for the book talk, we are glad you're here. Before we get started, I wanted to just take a moment because we've kind of jumped around in our last few episodes to give a recap of exactly how this will go. This will be more of our traditional format of the show. We will be covering this chapter to chapter, deep dive. We're going to cover parts 1 and 2 in this episode. And we are also going to round out the episode with an interview from Carly Rose Reads. Her name's Carly. That's her Instagram handle. She was awesome to interview. We're really excited for you to hear her perspective. She's a book talk slash bookstagram influencer, and she's super sweet. I really like her content. Michelle really likes her content. I just think she's very creative and she makes beautiful stuff. And more importantly, Carissa Broadbent's one of her, if not her favorite author. And so we were like, we've got to talk to Carly because she's a super fan of the Crowns of Nyaxia world. And your girl Carly has read 100 books this year. So for her to say that Carissa Broadbent and the Crowns of Nyaxia series are still like top tier, god tier for her, that's, I mean, I don't know how much more hype you want than that. So we have a really awesome interview with her. And then, of course, we're going to follow up with our mystery Q&A and close out of the episode with what's coming up next for Book Club After Dark. So stick around and we're going to get started. Pass it over to you, Michelle.
So this book starts off with the prologue, and what I like about the prologue, as well as the interludes for each part, or not part 1, because we have the prologue, but part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is it's from Asar's perspective. So we're getting more of his background. We already know a little bit about him, but really we get his tale. And the prologues are actually told in third person, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to the audiobook, it actually has like a different voice, or the voice actor drops his voice to make sure that we understand this is like a different person. So the opening quote of the prologue, or for this entire novel, is, "This is the tale of how a fallen one ascends. Long ago, I told you a tale of a chosen girl who fell to the darkness. Now I will tell you the tale of a boy who was born within it." So again, this is Asar's perspective, and the chosen girl obviously is Misha, and he is the fallen one, and how he ascends into what he will be, which we'll discuss later on. So he is the son of the Shadowborn king, but he's the bastard son of a prostitute born on a desolate island off the coast of the House of Shadow. So he wasn't born in the castle. He never really spent any time in the castle, really. He was, because of who he is and who his mother is. And at 8, a man who, his name's Gideon, he ultimately becomes his mentor throughout his life, came for him and offered him a deal. If he comes with him willingly back to the House of Shadow, he'll be evaluated and turned into a useful weapon and potential heir. He'll be comfortable until the crown no longer needs him. And ultimately, in terms of like vampires, this is a pretty good deal, just because usually children are killed off once they are considered a threat to the throne. So he at least will have protection because he's going to be useful in some sort of way, shape, or form. Gideon is gross, but he's going to teach him how to walk the path of death for his freedom ultimately. So this is where he learns his death magic from Gideon. And then centuries later, he realizes that, he didn't actually want power. Honestly, he wanted love. He was born on a desolate island. He didn't have anyone around. He was exiled. The only thing really Asar ever wanted was acceptance and someone to actually love him, to be honest.
It's like banished by his family.
Yeah. Right. And everything that he's loved has been like murdered in front of him. So,
so he ends up in
he never had an easy life. Yeah.
Or kills his dog. I mean, this poor guy.
Yeah. And Ophelia, his first love. So, and then the ending quote here is, "This is the tale of how a fallen one ascends. He does it in countless cascading decisions over years, over centuries. He does it with the desperation of a starving soul willing to sacrifice anything, everything for a single chance at redemption. But in the end, he loses her every time." So obviously there's a lot of foreboding here in the fates and what happens between him and Misha. So that sets the tone for our part 1, which part 1 is titled Death. And then we switch into Misha's perspective for chapter 1 in part 1.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about a couple of things. I kind of also took Alaris and Nyaxia's relationship into consideration thinking about this quote. And there's so many parallels because Asar struggles with the tie-in he has with Alaris and the things that go on throughout this book that impact Asar and kind of his humanity and individuality even, because parts of Alaris are impactful for him, and then you see parts of Alaris are impactful for Misha as well, and there's a lot happening. There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of things that
Yeah.
happen in this book, and I feel like that said those couple of sentences there can have multiple meanings for so many multiple things. And this is where Chris is really, really good at being able to tie in so many different elements and characters into a couple of sentences. She's just very good at that. I also wanted to mention that
Okay.
in Fallen, we get a new map. So I am excited about that. I love a new map.
Because we get the House of Blood. We
We do. We
actually,
get the House of Blood. We get the passage to the Deadlands. Yeah, we get our new map.
Danny's holding it up for those who are listening.
Yeah, so we get our new map. I'm excited about that. Yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride here, guys. It's about to start getting really bumpy.
Right. And the importance of the new map, too, is because basically every character we've seen thus far in the entire series gets tied into this book. And that includes Six Scorched Roses and Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. So every sort of
Yep.
main character we've seen is brought together here towards by the end of the book. So it's important that our map is expanding because all of our key components are coming together.
Atreus is back. We got a bunch of gods back. We've got Selena back. We've got everybody's up in here. And we even get Septimus back. And some new characters. A couple new characters. Quite a few new faces. And we also get Michelle's favorite.
Daddy Vincent.
That's right.
He starts off strong in chapter 1.
Yeah,
Yes.
tell us about it.
So chapter 1 takes off basically right where Songbird ends. Essentially, there's actually a couple lines that overlap here. So Misha is reflecting on like dying. She died alone while hearing the cries of Asar, which is traumatizing to have replay in her head. She's saying dying felt like the start of a fight rather than the end. So she knows her journey is continuing here. And she's in the Underworld. And Vincent, the dead vampire king of the House of Night, holds out a hand for her and is telling her to get up. And he quotes, "I hear we have some work to do." And he this is a repeated quote for him because this is his mission, this is his goal. So memories flash by her, especially the memory of her murdering Atraxis and sending the world into total and complete darkness. Instead of embracing death, she grabbed his hand and they both ultimately fall into darkness. Well, Carissa likes doing this a lot at the end of sections, at the end of chapters, the whole falling into darkness thing. And that's just a good segue that she has because Misha passes out a lot. She has a lot of faith. She has a lot of faith that something good is going to happen to her. I don't know if I would have that much faith, but your girl falls into darkness a lot.
Yes.
And as they're moving through the Underworld, they're noticing that things are different because of the death of Atraxis. And Atraxis isn't just like the god of the sun. He's the king of the gods also. So this is also a power balance issue in terms of the White Pantheon. So there are massive cracks that gush black and red with soul eaters that are everywhere. And we've come across soul eaters and songbirds, and they're awful, nasty creatures that literally devour souls. The name makes sense. Misha demands Vincent to tell her where they're going because he's just like, come on, we have work to do. And she's like, okay, let's go. But Vincent is like, she has a tone with him. And Vincent's like, you don't talk to the king like that. I am the king. And at first you like hope that Vincent has done some growing because, you know, it's been a couple books since he's died. And you still see the arrogance that really just shines in death as well. And he like blames her for everything happening. Well, because it's true. Then this night, since the resurrection was incomplete, the underworld is in shambles. So all of this is happening is her fault. And Asar holds the power of a god and has to take action so the underworld doesn't continue to fall apart. If it continues, it will impact the mortal world, especially the House of Night. So ultimately, he wants to keep the House of Night safe. That's his kingdom.
And I kind of viewed him as like a Virgil, just like we had in Yeah. To me,
Yep.
for those who haven't read Dante's Inferno, Dante doesn't travel the underworld by himself. He is guided by Virgil, which is very deliberate. Virgil is this kind of piece of wisdom that's guiding him to see his own self. And you have to see it on your own, but you need a guide. Sometimes you need a teacher to kind of help hold your hand and give you some information. And that's kind of how I viewed Vincent. You know, Vincent's not coming back. Like in the same in Dante's Inferno, Virgil's dead. He's been dead for a long, long time. And that's kind of the same principle here. Vincent in no way is never implied that there's a possibility he's coming back. There's no way that it's ever suggested as such. I've always just kind of thought of him as holding her hand through this, and that he's there as a guide. And it reminded me of classic literature, Dante's Inferno, in that way. I don't know if you got like kind of the same vibes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is kind of because he wasn't a great dad. He wasn't even a great vampire. I mean, he was an excellent vampire king, but he wasn't, you know, morally right. So this is kind of his redemption arc in terms of the reader as well. Like
Mhm.
he's not making the big plays, he's the guide here. He's making sure Misha understands what the mission is and reaffirms her when she needs it. Which is also a big thing because Vincent is very true, like loyal to the House of Night. Misha is
Mhm.
she's technically Shadowborn. She's from the House of Shadow. And then her best friend is Rain, who's the one that killed him. So he has some qualms with Misha and
Yeah,
Rain. I would say a little bit,
it's been.
but he really just wants to at first he comes off pretty cold. Like I just want to like have my kingdom be in power. That's it. But there's always more to Vincent. So
Mhm.
and he also emphasizes that when the gods sent Vincent to Misha, but he's very specific and he won't reveal who. So automatically you assume it's Nyaxia, but we'll see later on who it actually is. And of course, Misha's like, all right, let's go on. We're going to just save the world.
Of course. Yeah. And typical sunshine character that Misha is like, nothing's going to get our girl down. You know, there's a couple moments there where I was really devastated for Misha in this book because I was like, girl, how are we going to get out of this? Like, how are we going to get out of this?
Hmm.
How on earth are we getting out of Carissa? Don't do this to us. Don't do it. At certain moments, I thought for sure we weren't going to get our GA, happily ever after. And I mean, I just, Chris is just so good at that. She's so good at so many different dynamic layers. And then I'd also like stumping me because I'm like, girl, where are you going with this? Where on earth are you going? And she goes, and I'm like, oh my God, that makes total sense. I would have never thought of that, but that it works. I get it. So chapter 2, we get Asar's perspective, and that's another thing, right? Because this is book 2 in the duology. The style of Carissa is that in book 2, she's always going to provide a dual point of view. So we have dual point of view throughout this novel. Chapter 2 is Asar's perspective, and it kind of bumps back and forth. It's not always. Sometimes Misha's goes 2 in a row of her perspective, but you will always get multiple points of view throughout. It just depends on like the pacing of the story and what kind of makes sense to who's going to be speaking. That said, in the next book, book 5, it's going to exclusively be female main character perspective. So that should be interesting, especially given that we just got this new female main character. But that's kind of where we're going to have that similar pacing and kind of very much in line with Carissa's writing and what she planned to do for the series. So chapter 2 is in Asar's perspective. We flip here from Misha, and rightfully so, because I didn't know where the fuck Asar was or what happened to him. So I was like, where is he? What is going on? We knew he was imprisoned, but I was like, how is he going to get out of Syria? Like, what's going to happen here where he's going to get out? And this is, of course, where the White Pantheon live, air quotes, I guess, their main area that they live in, I guess you could say. And it's like all marble and really bright and white and all of this. And he's imprisoned and he's reflecting on Misha's death. And at the beginning of this, both of the characters are really unaware and maybe ignorantly aware of what they can do at this point and what the ramifications of the choices they just made are. So they don't understand how much power they actually have. But Asar knows he's a god. And at this point, he realizes that he has some power here. So the door
Yeah.
is there. There's 2 hooded figures. He realizes even he can feel that he has more power than the people that are holding him. He knows this already. So it's a matter of how's he going to leverage this and what's he going to do to get himself out of this situation. So he basically waits till they come and get him to go take him over to these gods instead of trying to like force his way through. He's like, I'm not going to go try to like fight everybody at once. It doesn't make any sense. Like, let's just try and see if there's an opening of like how I can get out of this situation relatively unscathed because I need to go get my wife, which we'll talk about my wife later. And the way I was like, a wife,
my wife,
loved it. Asar's perspective are for chapter 2 and 3. And they're in Istria, which is like the land of the White Pantheon. There, he's reflecting on Misha's death a lot. He's going through it quite a bit. And that there's the goddess of justice who ended up, killing her, driving the sword through her chest. And so he's reflecting on all of these moments that he's sitting here imprisoned for an unknown amount of time. He doesn't realize how much time has passed. And I thought that was interesting too, because in Misha's perspective, we don't really have a observation of like how much time has gone by or not, or how much like has been missed in the timeline. Leading into chapter 3, Asar has basically been waiting for an opportunity to kind of get out of this situation. He understands that he's more powerful than the folks that are the people that are holding him in there. And he realizes that there's opportunity to waiting. So leveraging the fact that he's going to eventually get pulled into meeting all of them anyway. And how can I kind of leverage that opportunity? So this is exactly what happens. He ends up getting pulled in to meet with all of them by the guards he has. And it was just this beautiful place. And the quote kind of describing it is, it's as if the gods had seen some beauty in mortality, but failed to realize that imperfection of it was what made it remarkable. Because what happens is there's no birds in the trees. There's no, imperfect flowers. There's no imperfect leaves. There's no leaves on the ground. Like everything, looking at everything in this area is so perfect. It's almost like CGI. Like it's artificial feeling. It's imperfect. It's too perfect looking that it's like off. Kind of reminded me of like
That's
a Black
the
Mirror
gods.
episode or something. Yeah, like it's a little off. They just don't have the humanity aspect in them, and it just doesn't feel right. And so Asar kind of notices this because he still at this point has quite a bit of his humanity left. But he gets taken out to this patio that's like absolutely perfect and stunning. And he's surrounded by the White Pantheon, which we have Taurus, the god of harvest, Ix, the sex and fertility god, Serana of machinery, Ijakai, who is the god of animals, Zarax for sea and sky, Shiket for justice, Ajmar for illusion and performance, Asaja for fate and spell casting. So there's all these different gods and goddesses who are there, and obviously Atraxis is missing from this. So the gods now at this point are talking about whether they should raise the sun and who could actually do it. There's a lot of showboating about who could do it and who can't. And they're talking about like, I am of the crops, I need to do it, and I can do, who can do it. And they kind of don't even notice Asar at first, which is typical. They're so like full of themselves that they like are like, oh, hey, once he finally gets there, they're so busy arguing amongst like themselves. And the gods try to use Asar to raise the sun. It doesn't work. And then they're like, oh, like you're working with Nyaxia. We know you are. And so Asaja wants to keep Asar. We saw a lot more of Asaja in slaying the vampire conqueror. In our previous episode, we talked more about her. So Asar's having her moment with her now. And then he decides like he fucking hates Shiket because Shiket, who is this like
runs her mouth.
Shiket, who has all the swords, who's supposedly justice. Asar is like, you're not, and I hate you because you killed my girl. So he tries to attack her, and then the guards are like, we're sending him back. He gets sent back, and the gods decide that they're going to kill Asar. And there's an important part of this too, because Asar has a shard of the sun as well. This is relevant later, but like whenever they killed him, being present for the killing of Atraxis was factored into how this impacted him too at the end of Songbird and the Heart of Stone. And so the gods decide they're like, we need to get rid of him. He's a liability, loose cannon. We don't know what we're going to do with him. We can't control him, and we don't know what kind of power he has. So like this is like him at his weakest. So they send 3 sentinels, which they think will be enough to kill him. He hears Misha's voice calling at this point, and he's like, I'm out. Like, he's going to do whatever he can to get out of there. And he's just like, I'm gone. So he ends up getting out of there and escaping because he's a god. So the Sentinels are really nothing in the grand scheme of things. He doesn't really realize this
Right.
still at this point, but ultimately, like, they're really like small potatoes. And he follows the staircase and like basically falls through it. Is how I'm
Mhm.
imagining it. And he's falling to her, he hopes.
Yeah, and
Which brings us to chapter 4.
they pass out or fall into darkness a lot here. But in chapter 2 and 3, we're introduced with the Sentinels, and I think it's really important because they're from Shakhet. Specifically, they're supposed to bring justice, and the Sentinels are described as they were once human souls that had dedicated their lives in death. Like, their afterlife is now like Shakhets, and like, so we see them, they're reoccurring. They wear like
Yep.
golden armor and everything, and they're
Kind of
actually
like
kind
the
of
like
like,
cops of the Pantheon, I guess, if you want to call it that,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
That's like kind of what I see them as.
yeah. Shakhets will. So chapter 4, chapter 4 is important because this is where Asar one understands that he's a demigod because he is in a room with 3 other demigods, and he realizes how they're a risk to the gods, and clearly they've been hidden, and they've been hidden by Asasia, who is obviously kind of collecting key component players, but she always masks her perspective by like, this is what the fates want. So
Yeah, yeah.
ultimately, the fates are telling her this is keep him alive. Ultimately, she knows he wants to go retrieve Misha. She did not see Misha's actions of that night in terms of like, she didn't actually foresee Misha killing Atraxis. So she was
Hmm.
surprised. She's like, I see all the threads and that didn't happen. So they had luck on their side. And she holds a piece of Asar's power, which is her line back to life. Essentially, Misha and Asar are connected. And Asasia offers him 2 choices. And this is really important in terms of
Yeah.
his destiny. So either she can sever the line and he can regain his divine power and he'll become king. The underworld will stop decaying as fast and Misha will die. So Misha's gone. Underworld is still going to decay, but it's just gonna, slow it down. The next one is she'll provide a line back to Misha, but will stress the underworld and her soul. They must finish their mission, and he needs to fully seize his power of the god of death. So become Alaris, essentially. They will have just weeks to reclaim his power before the underworld entirely collapses. And with this power, he could save Misha with this power. But there's a
Right.
lot of
Because now he's the god
variables
of death.
here.
Yep. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that can go wrong.
Yes. So they're obviously going to, this is where we go on our Horcrux hunt again. We saw this with Songbird with the
Hmm.
Horcruxes. Horcruxes.
Air
So
quotes.
in order to obtain his god power, he has to find the 3 cores of Alaris's power. His mask, which is like a crown mask thing, his eye, and his heart. And with those 3 objects, he can become a god. He will never be king, though, even though he has an heir mark, which he's never really wanted to be king anyways. I thought that was
He
a
doesn't care.
given.
Yeah.
Yeah, Misha will never be redeemed for her crimes for someone who killed a god. Never. And the next decade will be incomplete war. Misha will be alive, though. The relics will also take things from him. This choice leads to Misha's survival, but not necessarily his own. The wording here is really important, especially when you
Yeah.
get into part 5 after all of these things are collected, because he's just focusing on Misha will not be dead.
Yeah.
That's very broad. Misha cannot be dead and be in God knows where, but she's not
Right.
dead. So it's really important here. Focus on that. So obviously he chose Misha, and the world ultimately rearranged. Billions of threads, she murmured, and not a single one where you said no. So ultimately she knew that he was going to choose Misha
Yeah.
over the world
Of course.
because,
But the
of course.
threads, there's billions of still other options even after, right? So there's still a choice there. But she's saying like this choice was always like solidly going to be made one way or another.
Mhm.
You're always going to choose her. How it goes after that, I don't
May
know.
the fates decide.
Yeah, but you're definitely choosing her. And so can you
Mhm.
Is it a surprise to us? Absolutely not.
No.
Butcher and die. Asar's loyal to the fault? Absolutely not. No, he was going to choose Misha for sure. And I love that Carissa kind of slips in her romance too, because this is very romantic. And she's not even there. Like, she doesn't even know that this choice is happening for her. But that's kind of part of the romance that Carissa plays into, is like, this is romance for the reader, but also shows his loyalty in a way that Misha doesn't have to be there for him to completely be willing to give up everything for her. And it's just the swoon moment already in chapter 4. So chapter 5, we switch back over to Misha, and we're going to do this a lot. We're going to go back and forth between kind of their stories because they're running kind of in parallel to each other for a little bit before they kind of link up. So Misha and Vincent are now continuing towards the Vale, and Vincent's like done with her babbling on and on. He's just like, you're incessant. Like, do we stop talking? Like, is that a thing? Like, are you sure?
Why must I be punished in death?
Yeah, like, why am I still being punished, And like, Misha can read kind of Vincent's last moments, and he still feels this hatred for Rain, but it just doesn't matter. Like, Vincent can't look past what Rain is. Even though he loves Aurea and he loves that Aurea rules the House of Night, he still can't stand Rain. But am I surprised by that? No, not even in the least. So then the sky just opens up and hell starts to rain down. And we have comments like this a lot, where this book, we talked before in the previous episode about how we thought Slaying would be a really good live action. I don't think this book would. I don't think this duet would. I think if you were to do this, it would have to be something like K-pop Demon Hunters, like animated, something like that, because I just don't see how you could. The challenge of doing this duet visually in a cinematic way would be, first of all, extremely expensive, but also, like, I don't know if they could do it. Like, I don't know if they could do it justice with the number of creatures there are, like the amount of CGI.
A lot of CGI.
Maybe a lot.
And a lot of times when CGI is overdone, it's like really fake looking, which obviously it's fake looking, but I agree. I think this would need to be an animation of some sort, just because there's just so many different elements in the way actions are, the settings are described. There's no way.
The location alone, like the locations alone are like, you're not going to find a set that has anything like that. There's just no way.
All in front of a green screen.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
Asaja is back. This is back to Asar. Asaja tells Asar to go down the spira. So basically, she has like a web that connects the gods with the mortals, and she describes like gods are kind of everywhere and nowhere, and all like in all the aspects of time and space, and they use these spiras to travel to the mortal world. And she wants to do this before Shiket gets to him, because Shiket has a target on his back essentially, and she grants him temporary protection. Then he jumps down this, I'm literally picturing like a slide, but it's not an actual slide, it's like a line. So yeah. Again, and then he's just gonna
how would you do that in a movie? Like, I swear to God,
right?
There's so many things in this book where I'm like, I can see it in my head, but I'm like, no, that would be a terrible movie. It'd be really good as an animation though.
I agree.
So then the sky is falling, or is, as it's described, creatures and things like that are just falling from the heavens, or falling from the underworld. So remember, like, where Misha and Vincent are is like falling apart now, which was predicted and talked about in Asar's chapters. So we're kind of seeing the ramifications of that, even though Misha doesn't understand what's happening. That's what's happening in this world. She knows the underworld's changing, and we're getting the information as the reader from Asar's perspective of like why that's occurring and why the split is happening. Because Asar was basically, through Morthrin and through walking in Songbird, what him and Misha were doing of like trying to do repairs and trying to fix things and help these souls. Obviously, none of that's happening now. And then with the god being killed, all this imbalance is going on. So we have issues that are happening. Misha's going through that with Vincent. Misha's also dead. So it's important to emphasize that she is not among the living. And this is mentioned so many times. She's translucent. She can see the veil and these guardians like guarding it, but there's just chaos. So a sentinel comes for her and is like, Asar is shedding the veil to get to you. So then we see Lucy come out of nowhere
Good
and
girl.
attacks the Sentinel. And the way I was like, I was so excited. I literally gasped, and I was like so excited to see Lucy because I was like, "Where's our girl Lucy? How is she?" Because we were so concerned about that at the end of
Mhm.
Songbird, where we're like, "Where is our
Yes.
puppy? Where is she? We love her." A reminder for those is that Lucy unfortunately did pass in the mortal world, but Asar's ability to kind of bring her back, he was able to, and she's like a little ghosty puppy girl, and she's the best, and we love her. So Lucy comes back and attacks the Sentinel, and Misha is able to use some shadow magic against the Sentinel. And Lucy gives her Asar's lost sword to kind of break her chains up, and the Soul Eater ends up grabbing this Sentinel. So Vincent starts to help Misha up and tells her to go through the veil back. So to remind you, the Sentinel chained her. That's why she's in chain. So we're clear on that. Vincent helps Misha, and Vincent like doesn't help at all. I'm like, bro, where were you? Like, we just got attacked. What's going on
He's
here?
just
But
watching.
remember
He's the
that
guide.
he can't. Yes, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how it is. It's like there's like a separation even for him because I feel like he's in another level of his death than Misha is, and it's like he can't. There's certain abilities he has and doesn't have of like what he can do. And he can't really do anything with her physical form. So that's at least what I took out of it. So he's saying to her, there's no map for the path we must walk in times like this, but we must seize the chances that are given to us. I'll follow you to help where I can, though there's only so much I can see up there. So again, emphasizing the fact that he's like this Virgil type where he can't really he's a guide. He's not there to be in a physical form. He's dead. He's not coming back. He just has this sense of purpose in the afterlife, and he also wants to be redeemed in however he can. He wants to try to, even though he can never be redeemed. He wants at least to try to do one good thing, even if it's in the afterlife. So that's kind of what the purpose of what we see here with him.
Right. So chapter 8 and 9 actually wrap up part 1, and these are pretty action packed that happen quickly just because a
Mm.
lot's happening from Asar and Misha's perspective. So Asar follows the thread down to the veil essentially. It was ripped
Mhm.
with red spilling out of it. So if you remember the veil in Songbird, it's literally like a pool that's a mirror. So
Mhm.
he's seeing it now as like a ripped spilling blood. It's awful. Soul Eaters and recently dead souls are getting through it, so he's seeing a lot of issues there. He demands the passage from the guardians to to let him through because there are guardians on the other side that are trying to their best to make sure the souls don't get through, and they're struggling here.
Mhm.
And he wants passage, but they refuse. Basically, he is kind of a Lars, but not really. He only has a drop of his blood, so he can't command as much. But he ultimately opens the door with his shadow magic. He's like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna do it anyways. And then chapter 9 is where Lucy helps Misha climb up to the veil. She can see Asar trying to rip apart the veil on like her side of the mirror, and she
Mhm.
reaches out and Asar grabs her hand as she kind of like flings herself forward.
Yep.
And that's how we end part 1.
So part two is called A Crown, and it's another interlude that starts us out. And it's important because these set up more backstory. And we know Chris is pretty good at doing this too. She's done this historically in other books. So we like that. I like that as a reader, having that separation and getting a little bit more detail without being in the world itself. She gives us a little bit more information. So Asar was not a great student. He failed a lot with his magic, and he went through all these different types of training, and he went through deprivation training. He constantly, as he studied, craved knowledge, power, and freedom. So one night he finds a starving stray dog, Lucy, and he continues to visit her until he builds a friendship. And the mentor, fortunately, never intervenes in this friendship, but we also find out
And
right now
Malik.
that his brother, the prince, finds out about this friendship and is like a piece of shit, basically, and tortures and kills Lucy, which is horrific. So, this is where Asar actually practices his necromancy for the first time. He carves glyphs to resurrect her, and he realizes right away that she like doesn't look the same. She now has this like bronze skull, and her body has this like soft translucent shadow. This is where his mentor Gideon makes this point about talking about anger and like the power of emotions, and how this can like basically make him, you can use this to make him into greatness, and leverage his emotions to build him into greatness. So what a lesson to have learned. I don't know. It's a fucked up story. It makes you feel really bad for Asar, and it gives you an
Yeah.
understanding of who this Gideon guy is. And it brings us into chapter 10.
Right. Because Gideon basically exploits Asar's emotions because he realized that's the only
Mm-hmm.
time he actually performs
Yep.
necromancy well, and he continues to exploit that, which we'll see later with Ophelia as well. Yeah. Gideon's awful. He's not a kind mentor. He
No.
definitely is one for power.
Mm-hmm.
So, chapter 10, Asar is lying on the floor of Morthrin with Misha. She attempts to apologize to him about everything. They've been
Morthrin.
apart, but
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, I don't fucking care. You're in front of me right now. And he says the quote, Misha Ilie, dawn drinker or shadowborn, living or dead, I will never let you go. She's his person. He will always follow her to the ends of death to make sure that she's safe. But there's something weird with Misha. She doesn't feel solid anymore. When he touched her, he felt a burning pain, which is what happens with the wraiths. And Lucy immediately drags him away from her because she knows, like, this is, you can't, she's sucking the life out of him. Ultimately, that's what
Yeah.
the wraiths do. And he realizes Morthrin was in shambles and Misha was a wraith. She's not moving, she's withering away. So Asar offers her his blood, so
Yep.
to save her.
And then we switch to Misha's perspective, because she like feels a lot of guilt here with this too. It's not like she's like comfortable with this. It's not sexual like usually this is in most of the transactions of blood that we see in this series. This even though it's intimate, it's not sexual. There's Asar's blood tastes like death for her, and there's Lucy's like telling her, hey, you need to stop drinking. And she basically just needs some of it to like kind of get her a little bit less translucent and less wraith light, give her some life, quite literally. And her being vampire, this obviously makes sense. So Misha then needs to bring Asar to this magical bathtub, and he gets dragged through the halls and put into the tub. This water actually burns Misha, and there's just, they can't touch each other. This is what we understand is like finally they're reunited and they can't fucking touch each other. And the way you're
Nope.
like,
Bullshit.
what are we, yeah, like what are we gonna do? We're definitely not getting any
Right.
spicy time. We're not getting in with one bed. Like we're in Morthrin. Yeah, nothing exciting is gonna happen here. The house will provide, but there's nothing it can do about this specific thing. We love a sentient house. So
Mhm.
Asar wakes up finally, and she starts to like take in how different he looks, which tracks because he's been through a lot too physically. And he's
A
taken
little
on,
bit.
yeah, he's taken on some god blood. There's a lot of stuff happening here. His left eye is brighter. The streaks of silver, like his scarring on his face, are more luminescent, brighter, and he looks divine. He looks godlike. He doesn't look mortal to her anymore. And she would know. She's met, a couple different gods and goddesses at this point, and can see like these different ways that they're kind of described as other as than the human way. She can feel how powerful he is, and she's like crying with happiness at this discovery. So it's a little bit of a bittersweet feeling. Yeah, and even as a reader, you're like, damn, they finally got this far. They're in all these different places. They're back in Morthrin, and they can't touch each other. It's like, God damn it. Okay.
Can't have everything.
No.
So, chapter 12, after Misha's cried a while, Asar stands up and realizes Misha is actually naked. I guess the veil
Hmm?
doesn't like clothes, so
I mean, what do you need them
those
for?
didn't make it through. Because the house is sentient, they find clothing in Asar's drawer and they talk about, their time apart. Essentially, they caught each other up on what's been going on. And Asar reflected on a wraith, who's Esme, who refused to move further into the descent. So this is before Misha,
Right.
when he first got to Morthrin. and she showed Asar the beauty of Morthrin, which is now in shambles. So this is his home that he actually it it was broken down before he got there, and he cleaned it all up, rebuilt it, and now he's seeing it broken again. So it's really heartbreaking for him.
Yeah.
His study has been ransacked. The landscape of the House of Shadow has withered away because there is no sun outside. So, yeah, it's rough out there. They also see an armada from the House of Blood in the bay. So they need to go find the mask ultimately. Like that's their duty for this. The rest of this part is to find the mask first, which is in the House of Shadow. He actually knows someone who would know where it is, which is Gideon, and they ultimately go back to the palace. But they're actually interrupted as they want to go back to the palace because Shadowborn soldiers led by Elias, if we remember him in Songbird, he's the one that betrayed them
Yes.
and tried to kill them and ends up escaping with the petals of the poppy petals. So, yeah. But he comes back into Morthrin and takes Misha and Asar.
Yeah, wonderful. And we know how much he loves Egret, but we'll get there. So, chapter 13. Vincent appears to Misha, so he kind of can pop up in mirrors and he like pops up at these random places to remind her of what she needs to be doing too. Like she's on her own mission and she seems to forget this quite a bit. And she kind of falls into what Asar needs to do and is less concerned about what she needs to do for Vincent. She gets reminded like, hey, don't forget you're a Shadowborn queen as well, and you need to make sure that you're paying attention to this fact. And you need to be using your death power and Asar's divinity to your advantage somehow. And like you have another mission here. This kind of to me read as like she's going to continue to forget, and she does. Throughout the novel, it's more centered on Asar and what he needs to do. And this is very true to Misha's character as a whole, her sunshine character, and just how self-sacrificing she kind of is. She's just a really selfish person. And she, even when it comes time to step into her power, she's virtually unwilling to do so because she just feels like there's someone behind me that's better, right? Like she doesn't want the sake of power for power, and that's still true. Like she's still gonna prioritize Asar's mission here, which she does. So Misha wakes up in this ballroom of the Shadowborn castle, and they're like, the fuck, And Asar's half sister, Egret, who we were introduced to in Songbird, is on the throne, of course, of the Shadowborn house. This isn't surprising because who else would have stepped into this place? And we knew that she was after this anyway. And reminding you all again that they are brutal. These are not welcoming vampires. Nobody here is nice. Egret is basically like, it's kill or be killed out here. Like, you're lucky you're alive as a sibling of mine, and I guess I'm lucky that you didn't kill me first. And so here I am. Egret's mother and several Shadowborn nobles are sitting there, and Septimus is present. Now, this is important too because Septimus is always important wherever he is. There's a reason why he's there. Egret now also has an air mark, which is really interesting too. So she has this air mark that's presented, and she now plans on making this spectacle of Asar. And there's this moment where Nyaxia, we know, has given Shadowborn a mission to spread her vengeance, and now Asar is going to be this like first death to signify this. Misha just falls over and is like, it's fine, I'm fine with it. But Egret's like, no, it's not good enough to just kill you. Like, I need to kill both of you. So Asar interrupts and is like, we're married. This is my wife, and you can't kill her. It's not happening. We're not doing that.
Right.
We're husband and wife. I'm out to protect you. And there's this level of like, who really is in power here? Because if they're husband and wife, what does this mean for Egret? And okay, you have the air mark, but I don't know. There's now this power imbalance and this question of what's he doing here? Why are you showing up now? Are you trying to take my seat from me? And this like imbalance that she feels. So yeah, there's a level there.
And this continues into chapter 14, and Asar immediately goes into like anger for disrespect for Misha, anything she's faced, not just in the House of Shadow, but like for her entire life, he starts feeling this rage. And Misha has to remind him of their purpose in coming back to the House of Shadow. It's not to like just slaughter all of them. They have to get the mask. So they have to play smart to get Ygritte to do what they want. Asar ultimately declares his alliance to Ygritte by saying, like, I
Fine.
not secede, was it? Is it secede? I secede the throne?
Six. Yeah.
Concede.
Well,
Secede.
either.
Okay. Three, 2, 1. Asar declares his alliance to Ygritte, basically saying that she can have the throne. He doesn't want it. He is going to give all of his allegiance to you, or to her. And Misha is like, in his mind, like, be more persuasive. So he's going to
Yeah.
support the throne, not steal it, and bow to her ultimately. And he just wants a role in building the kingdom beside her. And she's like, at first she's taken aback because this isn't normal like vampire
No, they're not supposed
sort
to
of
do this.
behavior. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
they're supposed to like fight to the death for it. But they've always had contention in their relationship. So and Asar has always been cast to the side. So she just goes with it and understanding that this is probably going to go sideways at some point in time, but she has like her backup plans and everything like that. And that Ygritte ultimately offers him mercy for his crimes. And by that extent also goes to Misha, who murdered Malik. So technically she should be dead. But mercy for them for now.
Yeah. Complicated mercy.
Very much so.
So in chapter 15, Misha's like, why did you say you would never take the throne? But we know why, and it's because Asar has already made a deal. So he's not going to be taking the throne anytime soon, but Misha doesn't know this yet. So there's just a comment of him saying like the House of Shadow is not something he's like ever going to try to take. He doesn't have any interest in that. Misha is like, are you like trying to become a god? She has her own kind of inner dialogue about this. But she's also like, wait, he said I'm his wife. And so she's like all like
Was
hot
it
and
a
bothered
fun
over this.
wedding?
Yeah. Like she's
Was
like
it
all
good?
hot and bothered
Was
over
it
this. Yeah.
nice?
And he's like, well, look, I needed to protect you in that moment. So yeah. There's an important thing that's going on at the time during this when they get to the House of Shadow, and there's a night festival that they have, which only happens in certain times of year over a certain amount of time. There's only like ever a couple hundred years or whatever that this occurs. It's the night of the Malume, and it's a legendary event where past and present mining is thinned, and so ghosts of the past can like walk along among the living. This is important for Misha. So there's Alarius' kingdom before he was murdered, the House of Death, and the Melume will allow them access to this mask. So is this the fates kind of helping out that it's convenient that this
Maybe a little.
coincidentally the night that they're there is the night that they can actually like go get something that would regularly not be accessible. So yeah, so is Asaja a little bit on their side here? I think a little. A tad might be. We don't know why yet, but yes. So Misha's feeling tired, and her soul, remember, she's not really meant to be in this space. She's not really destined to be here. And it kind of reminds me of the Deathly Hollows, where you have the stone that you turn thrice in hand and you bring somebody back, but they're like not really meant for this world. That's
Yeah.
Misha at this point. The resurrection stone is kind of where she's at, and she's like not really supposed to be there. So there's a lot of times where she's just like really not okay and needs a lot of rest. So Asar is going to find the person he knows who has seen the mask. And that's where we leave off on chapter 15.
So chapter 16, he obviously has to get passage to that place. So this is where Gideon is. And Gideon actually lives in Ravenhall, which is off the coast of
Yeah,
the House of
it's
Shadow.
not
So it's
there.
not even
Mhm.
on mainland. Like this is where Ravenhall is where Asar grew up. So he grew up in Ravenhall, which is not even mainland House of Shadow. If you look at the map, it's there. It's marked. That's why we love a good map that's actually detailed and tells us where we're going.
Yep.
So Asar asks Ygritte if, they can go ultimately. And he reflects that, Asar and Ygritte are close in age, with Malik being way older than them. And Ygritte never hated Asar until he was actually like proving himself to be useful. So obviously then there's some hatred there. But here, she seems thankful to have Asar's help in building their kingdom, especially since she's a queen too. She has to kind of assert herself more so in dominance and whatnot.
Mhm.
But Nyaxia had appeared to her, as well as to the king and queen in the House of Blood. She did not appear to the House of Night, which is where Rain and Aurea are. We know that they aren't exactly in Nyaxia's favor in this point in time.
And we knew
But
that this
Asar,
happened at the end of their book. We knew that
yeah,
she didn't appear. So this is not news.
mm-hmm.
We knew this. This is just coming back up again now.
Right. Right. That story is interconnecting now on, what happens there. So Asar mentioned he needs to go to Ravenhall to take advantage of the magic he can use during the Malume. He makes some bullshit up about like crafting weapons and whatnot, but he's ultimately trying to get to Gideon so he can get the mask. Gideon had been unwilling to work with her, so Asar thinks that she wants him to be her Gideon, ultimately, someone who can practice necromancy and do all the dark magic shit for her, because she actually really sucks at magic.
Yeah.
And
she's
they
not
must
good at
seize
it.
every opportunity.
Yeah. So Misha and Asara end up going together to Ravenhall and off the coast again. And it's just like an archive that protects valuable things. So it's a pretty big castle island thing. So they take a boat, and it's gigantic. It's ivory covered stone, arches, decorative, stained glass. It's really beautiful. The dead are active within the halls because remember the night that we're going there, and they need to go somewhere that's warded from the dead. And so Misha is not going to be able to enter this area. There's this moment where this bird just like flies into this window and dies, which is, I think, symbolic because now
Yeah.
Gideon goes to get the bird. Oh, well, Misha he asks her, can you go pick up the bird? And he wants to try to bring this bird back to life, which he does, but it, the bird just doesn't stay alive. Same thing, not meant for the world. And
I also think that foreshadows part 5, where we have the firefinches make a return in part 5, and they're all burning and dying and falling to the ground. And Gideon ultimately was the catalyst to make that happen, like Gideon's appearance. So I think this foreshadows, and it's very small,
yeah, it is.
glimpse into that.
No, I agree. I think you're spot on. There's always a little bit of foreshadowing. Carissa Broadbent's not an author that does anything without some forethought and some reasoning
Mm-hmm.
behind it. So I think you're spot on there. And it's a odd introduction to him, but there's a reason she's going to introduce him with a bird. There has to be, because it's going to tie into something later on. Asar asks for information on Alaris's relics and just in general, because remember, this is island is where they house relics and things like that. And Gideon's kind of the keeper here. Where's the mask? Where's his eye, the heart, etc. I actually loved where the heart ends up being, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But the god dies, and where God dies is the greatest source of power. Again, foreshadowing. We're more than likely going to go back to where Alaris has died, which we do. And Serana's blade wasn't strong enough to dismember him without some help. So Alaris's own eye was used in the sword to dismember him. So they literally took his eye, put it in a sword, and then used it to further kill him.
The gods are fucked up. They're awful.
And then imagine poor Nyaxia. And this is where, like, I feel for Nyaxia. She's been through it.
Right.
She really has. Like, they literally, like, didn't just kill her husband, but they dismembered him while he was alive to kill him.
And scattered his, like,
Yes.
parts.
And then,
And
they're just horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. So
yeah.
the sword, they find out, is in the Deadlands. It's a realm between the mortal and the divine worlds, and it's only accessible through House of Blood. So here I am listening to this on audiobook, cleaning my kitchen, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to House of Blood. But anyway.
Optimus. Yay.
Yes.
He plays a part.
Gideon says he doesn't know where the heart is, and he offers Asar a map to help him find the mask at the height of the Melume. So this is giving him an idea, like, you need to find it at this specific time when the veil is thinnest between the worlds.
Chapter 18, Asar takes Misha into his old study for her to rest because her soul's been working overtime to be present in the mortal world. Then he rejoins Gideon. He tells Gideon of the state of Morthrin, and Gideon already knew that he was trying to be a god and Misha was a wraith. So he is very powerful in terms of his magic. So, and he knows Asar better than most people, ultimately. So he had sensed his magic because now his own magic is mixed with Alaris's because, god shit. And he knew who his mother was when he got him from the island. So his father's magic must have also known of her lineage because he's like, he's slept with worse. So, clearly if he didn't actually know that he was a descendant of Alaris, then his magic had a sense of it. And Gideon ultimately is the one that convinced his father to keep him alive to use as a weapon. And he emphasizes here, love will be Asar's downfall because that's all he wanted. God forbid someone gets some love around here. And Asar asks about the key to get to the mask. So at first I was thinking it's an actual key. The keys are more like symbols that they craft in their magic. And the House of Shadow, they specialize with their shadow magic in these key crafting. Gideon offered information, but he's like, for a price. And Asar is like, I'm a fucking demigod. I don't need to haggle. And he uses force instead and ties Gideon up and literally pries all of this information he can out of his mind. And he didn't want to kill him because that would be too easy. And so he restrained him, pried everything out, and then kind of ultimately healed him and then left him. So it was pretty torturous, ultimately, what he did. But he got what he needed.
He did. And Asar kind of struggles with that too, of like, another god or demigod would have just been like, "Yep, you're dead," without a thought. And Asar is just not at that kind of point yet. But it just, that what that does is it leads a possibility for vulnerability later and for this character to come show himself up again, which we know he does. So chapter 19, we get a little spicy time. He ultimately gets the combinations that will get him into this mask tomb. And Asar goes to find Misha and finds her in an alcove standing on top of a piano wearing a bed sheet. Asar believes they shouldn't be like close by the state that she's in, but Misha also has like some mind control. And she's like, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. And there's a lot of redundancy throughout the book of like certain phrases, and it's on purpose, of course, which is trying to get into a person's subconscious and like try to get them to do something with this mind control that they have and compel them. So he stays ultimately, and there's some spicy time between the sheet because he can't touch her, but he wants to. So he kind of touches her through this sheet and that she's wearing, and they have this moment and they return to the castle. And it's an important moment because they haven't been able, I mean, how long has it been since they've seen each other and they've had any kind of, like, they can't kiss, they can't make out, like, nothing. Don't even get to touch each other. It's pretty sad. So they have this first moment together where I imagine for her, she's like, this guy just called me his wife and I can't even touch him. Like, I'm like dead.
Yeah.
Like, it's bittersweet.
It's sad.
Yeah. It was like some sad, spicy time. So it is what it is. Well written, but still sad.
Very much so. Chapter 20, they're back in the House of Shadow castle. Vincent appears to Misha, and he does this in a mirror. The Underworld is close to the House of Shadow now. He had been with her all throughout Ravenhall, and she's like, wait a minute, even when, and he's like, why would I don't care about you getting some pleasure in. She's like, no.
Yeah.
It was a funny exchange. So he tells her to go to the House of Night to take the blood he cultivated to find Alaris's heart. And he didn't know that Aurea already gave it to Nyaxia, but he's pretty adamant, like, no, there has to be blood there. We spent, meaning him and Aurea's mom, spent a lot of time trying to cultivate this god blood. So he's like, it has to be there, and the blood will connect you to the heart. But Misha struggled with the thought of going back to the House of Night since they're outside of Nyaxia's favor. She's like, I don't want to bring any more shit to them. That's too much for Rain, too much for Araya. I don't want to do it. And they kind of have an
meanwhile,
argument
they
there.
don't know where Misha is. Like, Oraya
Right.
and Rain are like, where the fuck is Misha? Because she, like, disappeared. Like, they think she's
It's been like
dead.
almost a
Not good.
year. Like they
Yeah.
haven't talked to her in
Misha
quite
hasn't
some
written
time.
back. Like, they have no idea where
Hmm.
this poor girl is, which is not cool.
Right. So Asara and Misha make a plan to get the mask ultimately because they have the House of Shadow, but then they have the map of Alaris's kingdom, which is kind of overlaid within the House of Shadow, but it's not exactly it. So they have to kind of figure out what the plan is. Misha will have to go alone to unlock the way to the mask because Asar and Egret will be conducting the Malume ceremony, and once they take the mask, Egret will know. So they have to abandon ship like immediately to the Deadlands so they can find the sword, essentially. The night of the ceremony, the castle was crowded. Septimus appears to Misha, and of course, they need a way out of something, and Septimus is the way out. And
Naturally.
her first response is slapping him across the face, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, I take responsibility for overthrowing the House
I
of
deserve
Night
that.
and killing, and plotting to kill Rain." But Kyrus was responsible for her being used as a gift to Malik. He's like, I even thought that was fucked up. So
Yeah.
I
He's
will
like, I
take
wasn't cool with that.
responsibility for the first two. But Adminis knew that they need to get to the Deadlands quickly. And I find this very interesting. The House of Blood, they know a lot. And because, they know Nyaxia appeared to them. But
Yep.
also, Septimus always knows things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited for his book because then we get to see how and why he knows things.
Like his magic.
He's
Yeah.
like Littlefinger in
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. He's the
Uh-huh.
one who knows everything.
He's like a hotter, better one.
He's not creepy with a mustache.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
So his cousin had spent years there, and this is where we're gonna get the overlap from slaying the vampire conqueror. He offered to guide them for a favor. Perhaps our interests align in this particular scenario. So ultimately, they're going to get a favor out of this. And she looks into his mind and felt his hope for her answer, and then rage for a lot of different things that happened to the House of Blood, happened to his brother. And
His cousin.
so and so she's seeing a lot of his honesty here. We don't know, like the chapter ends, we don't know that she agrees, but she ultimately does agree because they have no other plan here.
Yeah, there's nobody else. It's as it goes with Septimus. That's usually how it ends. And also too, like, this is where we kind of get the nods that we are going to see maybe some familiar faces later on, which we see Atreus. So we do. Chapter 21. Asar thinks that the whole party that's going on is absurd and over the top, but also very egret. So there's Egret trying to show off her power, and there's a what's called the Dusk window. So it is a relic from Alaris's rule, and it reflects the past. So you can see the House of Death and the souls that walked the halls, and they're going to use it to connect the past to the present. So it's kind of this like portal window type deal. Could look at it like that. Misha and Asar go and dance as a distraction to wait until the ceremony occurs. And there's this like off feeling. So Misha kind of feels this too. And the dead feel off. They're like hungry and panicky. And right as they're about to begin, Misha hears Rain. And I'm like, oh shit. Rain's there.
Yep. And immediately it's like a fuck moment because he's not supposed to be there. They're not.
No.
It's not like.
Misha's like, I don't want to be anywhere near them because I'm trying to like protect Rain. Yeah. So she's like,
but
fuck.
Also, Rain and the House of Shadow don't have a good relationship either. So politically, he should not be there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Malik did die in his kingdom. So, Malik was a piece of shit. Great. But he did die in his kingdom. Yeah. So him being there just throws a lot of wrenches in the plan. By chapter 22, Misha and Asar are shocked at his appearance, but not as shocked as Rain was to hear that they're married. He's like, what the actual fuck? And obviously Rain is immediately going to like okay, well, she's being compelled to do things she doesn't want to
Oh
do,
yeah.
all that
She
stuff.
thinks that she thinks Asar's a piece of shit.
Yeah, because I mean,
What
he
Malik
knew
was.
who his brother was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Asar left to do the ceremony, essentially. He's like, I'm going to leave you to it, but he should go. This is not good. And Misha is like attempting to convince Rain to leave. Rain refuses since they haven't heard from her in a year. They're like, can you just tell
As
me
he
what's going on?
Yeah. He's like, "The fuck
Yeah,
you mean?" Like,
valid.
yeah, exactly.
A-
Rain's totally valid
And
here.
yes, but the ceremony was complete and Misha ran out of time because she should have been gone so that she can find the door to get to the mask. And she ultimately is like, you shouldn't be here, and then just runs away. I'm sure Rain's face was just like, what the actual fuck? What is going on?
Yeah.
And
And then
yeah,
like he doesn't know that she's dead either. So it's
no.
just there's a lot to this that's happening here.
Chapter 23, as the ceremony ends, so remember with the Malume, the House of Death overlaps the House of Shadow, because this is
Mhm.
where Alaris's kingdom actually was. His old kingdom's name was Vithizia, and it replaced the House of Shadow ultimately. So as Misha's like running through the halls, it's familiar but not, and
Mhm.
she's actually seeing like spirits walk around her. So Elias here is approaching Asar because Asar is like, okay, ceremony's done. Misha is on her way. I need to go find her. And Elias is like, well, 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 we
Ugh.
found Gideon. And Shadowborn soldiers ultimately begin surrounding him. And he's like, well, this is going to end in one of two ways, and you're going to die tonight. And Elias draws his sword to detain him because he's like, he knows that him and Egret know that he's up to some shit.
Mhm.
And Sar is like, I don't have a weapon on me. He only has like this little knife that he used to like draw the glyphs into Gideon's body. So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to just use my death magic. And basically, he just completely destroys all of them.
Kills everybody.
And that,
Yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
And that fight continues
And he
into chapter
warned
24.
Elias too. He like warns him. He's like, "Bro, are you sure you want to do this?" And he's like,
Yeah,
I will be doing this, da da da." And you find out that he like is actually in love with Egret again, which we already knew, but that like
right.
we don't know at this point, we know later, but we didn't know if it's reciprocated, and it definitely is. So
Yeah.
about to have a hard time here. Chapter 25. Misha's running through the halls trying to find a pathway to the mask, and using her magic, she finds a doorway and opens it for Asar. So they're running out of time now. And obviously Asar's kind of dealing with something at the moment. So he's trying to get there. So there's a room, this like circular room, this shadow pool of water, and this veil between the mortal world and the descent. And there's this big ass fucking shark. And I imagine this shark like huge. It's like this guardian
For
type
sure.
shark. And it's this ghost of Alaris's old guard, which is kind of cool. I thought it was visually pretty cool. And again, I think this would be really cool as a like a animated thing. Like I would think this would be a really cool thing to see. And there's some glyphs surrounding the mask, and Asar has the missing glyph to access the mask. So they work together to like weave this together, and a gate opens. Misha tries to reach for it, and the way I gasped. Again, I was still cleaning my kitchen at this point when I heard this, and I was like, because she gets freaking pulled in. Cliffhanger.
Hmm.
End of chapter 25.
Of course, all these cliffhanger chapters.
Oh, yeah.
Carissa, you can't like put the book down like ever just because every
No,
chapter ends in a
because
cliffhanger.
I was like, "Oh, I'm done with these dishes now. Let me take a pause." Oh, wait, I can't take a pause here. I just did a gasp.
No,
I have to know what happened
I
to
need to
her.
find out.
Yeah.
So, chapter 26, the mask landed next to Asar. So, she gets the mask out, but she gets pulled in and is beneath the veil. The Guardian mocks Asar because Asar's like, go get her. And the Guardian's like, no, only one commands me, which is Alaris. And this is when like the mask. So the entire time with the mask, I picture like Venom because with the mask in the
Yeah,
eye, they
I know.
have like a voice that's like,
Well,
do
and the
it. And
mask is
like they're like
sentient.
telling him to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And they're telling him to do things and making comments about like things that he says or things that he's looking at the entire time. So basically, I'm picturing Tom Hardy and Venom the entire time. But Asar puts on the mask and he felt both pain and pleasure. The mask spoke to Asar and molded to his face,
Mhm.
essentially. And he again commanded the Guardian to retrieve Misha, especially since he bears the crown. The Guardian dove down and parted the veil, and Asar followed. The Guardian kills the Soul Eater very quickly and frees Misha. And they go back up. Asar quickly rips the mask off, and once him and Misha are safely out of the pool, and they fled back into the tunnels before it closed. So all of these chapters are happening really quickly because they have to get the fuck out of there. Now that they have the mask and that's all done, they just got to get going.
Yeah. So chapter 27, they're like literally running now through the castle. Let's not forget about Rain and forget about Egret and forget about everybody because they're still there, but we're running anyway.
And
And we're
Lucy.
trying to go, yeah, and Lucy. And they're running through the castle. The guards are closing in on them by the ballroom. Asar wants to go out the back entrance, but they start hearing like the clash of metal. So they realize that it's like not just them that's like having fights with other people. They're like, something else is going on here. What is going on here? And they decide to continue towards the ballroom, and they round the last quarter, and there's just Shadowborn soldiers waiting. A window shatters, and a sentinel is standing before them, which reminder, sentinel is of the White Pantheon, is a guard, is standing before them. So, yeah, got issues here.
They're like, oh shit. Well, I mean, because that's part of the White Pantheon. The White Pantheon
Yeah.
is now in Nyaxia's territory. So,
Yep,
because
that
they
too.
thought they would be pretty safe from that, but nope. So shit is getting real in the god realm as well. So chapter 28, Misha actually recognizes the Sentinel as the one who captured her at the Veil. She's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Asar reaches for the mask, but Misha's like, no. She understands that touching the mask and using the mask is like taking away parts of him, which is what Asaja did warn him about. So Misha thinks quickly, grabs the bag that the mask is in, tosses it to Lucy to carry, and Lucy like gets the fuck out of there. The Sentinel was caught off guard because like, okay, I'm catching the mask or the traitor. I don't really know which one to go after right now. Kind of both, but they're separated. So the ballroom is in bloody chaos as vampires are fighting the Sentinels. Lucy's running with the mask. Misha and Asar are trying to follow. Misha, let's remember, she's in a ball gown. It's like 20 pounds of velvet that she's wearing. So as she's going through, and she's wearing a corset too. So it's not the most tactful dress for trying to escape somewhere, but she's trying. A sentinel grabs Misha and she tries to negotiate with them, but Misha murdered the king of the White Pantheon, and the sentinel's like, no, I'm not open to bribery at all. So she swings her sword down on the sentinel, and basically enough to like shock him to buy her some time, and she jumps towards the window, which is the mirror, the Dusk window. Vincent was in the mirror, and she opened the veil basically to let the rest of the underworld in, to buy them more time, is essentially what they're doing, or she's trying to do.
Yep. And chapter 29, Asar sees Misha doing this as it's all going down. Like he's watching her in like basically slow motion. So it's kind of him capturing her and like how basically obsessed and in love with her he is, but also just like he's like, I see this goddess or I see this queen like doing these things, and he's describing her. And it just kind of, highlights his love for her. So the dead start being released into the room, and the wraiths are most attracted to the sentinels. Of course they are. This gives them time to escape. So there's now the sky, of course, starts swirling. So anytime in Crowns of Nyaxia, when the stars start staying swirling, some god or goddess is about to show up, which naturally Nyaxia is on her way. Because now we've got too much shitting hitting the fan, and she's pissed that White Pantheon sentinels are up in her area. She's like, no, you're not coming to hang out at House of Shadow or any of my children's areas. Like, no, you are not here. So she's on her way. So now Egret is like pissed because we find out that she actually was in love with Elias at this point. Egret lunges to get Asar, and a soul eater ends up bursting through the window and crashes into Egret. And not great. Misha grabs Asar and they're gone. So it was a lot. There's a lot happening in this chapter. It's moving super fast.
Lots of
Yeah,
action.
a lot of action. Yep.
So part 2 wraps up with chapter 30. Misha, Lucy, and Asar run towards the dock. Septimus is waiting for them there. Rain comes down from the sky and is trying to get her to come back to the house at night, and he
Remember, he
refused to leave
flies.
without her.
We haven't seen
Yeah,
wings in a
because he
while.
has wings.
Might have forgotten that Rain has wings. Rain has wings, so he's flying. And he's like, what the
Yes.
fuck? I can just imagine him just like being like just like dropping right in front of them and being like, absolutely not, Misha. Like, I just got you back, you know? He's pissed.
Yeah. Yes, he is. And he's refusing to leave without her. So she has to compel him
Compels him.
to leave the house of shadow and return to the house of night. And she says, "You will go back to the house of night. You will not come back here looking for me. You will hug Aurea and tell her that you love her, and you'll stay safe, all right? You will go stay safe." And he just leaves because that's her magic. This kind of breaks her a little bit
It's
because
bad.
the only reason why she's able to do this very well is because she used their friendship to get into his mind, and he obviously wasn't expecting it from her. So Septimus has a rowboat waiting for them. 2 of his men have been instructed to take them to the House of Blood. His cousin will meet them at a rendezvous point, then escort them to the Deadlands. Septimus gives them a liquid to knock them out for the journey because outsiders aren't allowed within the House of Blood. However, he's like, if you're comfortable with it, Lucy will remain awake to make sure you're guarded. Lucy is essentially Asar's guardian because all the guardians have like the masks, the bronze masks on their face, and they're all like animal based, and she just pops up out of fucking nowhere, just like a guardian would, to protect whatever they're bound to. So clearly this is, another nod to like Lucy being his Asar and Misha's guardian. So they were skeptical of Septimus, but ultimately, they don't have any options here.
No.
So they have to trust him, and then they go on their adventure to the House of Blood. And we'll continue that in next episode.
All right. That wraps up parts 1 and 2. I'm really excited because this book, there's so much going on. There's so much happening. I loved this duet. It is really different from the first duet. I can't wait to talk more about it. But now we're going to talk more about it for you all because we're going to listen to Carly and our interview with Carly, which is really fun. We asked her a bunch of really cool questions, a little bit off topic of Carissa's story, but also within it. So we've got lots of Crowns of Nyaxia stories. We've got 3, 2, 1. We've got lots of Crowns of Nyaxia questions, and we also have questions just about like the book talk space and the Bookstagram space, like kind of what's going on there and what Carly has done and wants to do with it. So we're gonna bump it over to her and get that going. Welcome to Carly. Hi, Carly. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where everyone can find you?
I'm Carly Reads on Book Talk, and I'm Carly Rose Reads on Bookstagram because someone else already had the handle.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We're really excited to have you. If anyone doesn't follow Carly yet, make sure you give her a follow. She has some really, really cool different types of posts that she does. She has some candles with some books. She's in the know about all the new stuff that comes out. She has really good recs for seasonal reading. And more importantly, she is very in the know on Crowns of Nyaxia, which is why we asked her to be here and join us for this special interview segment. So thanks so much, Carly, for coming on.
First, have to chat about one of my favorite authors.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So let's get into our first question. So what did you enjoy most about The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk?
I think I said this in like a few of my reviews, but this was the book that all of the pieces really fell into place for the series. So I love chatting about this universe. I love the characters. I love the way everything overlaps. And Chris actually said before this book's release that like make sure you've caught up with all of the books, so like the novella and the additional standalone book. And it made so much sense when you actually read it because you're like, oh, like I get it now. And I love books that make me feel smart. I'm like, oh, because I paid attention, like I get it and now I'm following. And I think it just goes to show how intentional everything was.
Yeah.
And it makes me that much more excited for the next duet.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about your passion for books and kind of like your drive with like Bookstagram and the book talk space and kind of what you enjoy about it and kind of bring that into. I know you've posted a lot about Crowns of Nyaxia, but in general, I know you read tons of romantasy. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was not one of those people I grew up reading a bunch. I think I like the last time I remember like being really excited about like picking up a series and binging it was like in high school when I read like Twilight because it was like what everyone else was doing before the movies were coming out. And then I took a lot of classes on like classics and things like that. And I took like a whole class on Jane Austen and like read all of her books. And I really enjoyed dissecting books. And then I just like didn't read at all in college and ended up like living my life. And one of my family members ended up having like a really bad health scare. And I ended up having to drive them around all the time. And I was like, "Oh, I should start reading." Like, I don't wanna be on my phone, I don't wanna scroll, like, I feel like I should pick up a book. And my sister was like, "You should read ACOTAR." Like, I read this, like, I think it'd be something you'd be interested in. And then I read that, and then I started lurking in comment sections on Book Talk, and I was like, "I really wanna, like, chat about this, and I feel weird because people in my life aren't chatting about this. Like, how can I, like, insert myself?" And then I started making friends in the comments. And I was like, "Oh, I can start making content. Like, I think I can post about it." And I remember posting, like, book covers because I was like, "There's no way I could ever show my face." And then I started showing my face because I was like, I feel like I wanna, like, deepen these connections, and it feels like everything just kind of, like, rolled from there, and I think it's really interesting because when I first started, I was just excited to be, like, having conversations, like, I was just reading always in the background. I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna casually talk about this book." But then and over time now I've been in this space for, like, almost 2.5 years, and now I have, like, friendships with authors and businesses and publishers, and it's really become
Podcast.
cool to have this, like yeah, in a podcast, and it's all about these relationships, and so I feel like the community is now really just, like, fires me up, like, I love reading, don't get me wrong, like, I've read over 100 books this year,
Oh,
but,
wow.
like, coming online and, like, posting content really does come down to, like, I love discussing these things because, like, while I can discuss movies with friends and family, like, there's something about, like, sitting down and actually, like, taking, like, multiple hours building worlds in your brain, and I feel like that's why I love romantasy so much because it's like the best of both worlds where you get, like, that world building, you get to, like, these intricacies, these magic systems and things like that, but I'm such a romantic at heart too, so I also get that, like, falling in love moments and, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I love love, so it's you get to feel that excitement, and so it's been, like, an interesting journey, but I feel like it does come down to the people that I feel like drives me so much to continue being, like, a bookish creator.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love how ACOTAR is kind of like everyone's gateway drug into romantasy. Like, I feel like
Yes.
ACOTAR is like that catalyst that really sparked romantasy for at least for this generation. And I know for us, Danny's like, please read this book. Please read the series. She actually bought it on Amazon's like freaking read it. I'm like, okay. And here we are.
Yeah.
It's it's such an easy way to, like, get into the world, especially just, like, the world building. I think it's digestible, and I think that's, like, the interesting thing with romantasy is it's, like, such a large spectrum because you have
Mhm.
some people that have come into space because they wrote romance and they wanted to layer, like, the fantasy world on it, and
Mhm.
there's some people that have come from, like, the fantasy space, and they're like, "Well, now I wanna start talking about the romance." And so I think it is this cool, like, bridge because romantasy is, like, such a widespread word, but, like, you have fantasy romance and you have romantic fantasy, and they are very different, and, like, I know people love, like, smushing it together for, like, marketing terms, but it really is different, like, there's so much variety, and it's like you can have extreme world building or you can have something that's more digestible and, like, you don't get super deep, but at least you can have, like, a taste of it.
Yeah. Or you can read, like, I mean, I've been really lately into like dark romantasy. I think that
I
is
love
such a great subgenre of romantasy because it explores really psychologically more in-depth characters in my mind. And yeah, of course it's dark. Check your trigger warnings as you were. But, Fourth Wing's pretty dark too. You got kids dying left and right, students. So, I mean, it's just not graphically described, but and I take that back, sometimes it is. But more importantly, I was trying to say that there's this space where you have romantasy as an umbrella, and then you have all these like little subgenres within that umbrella. There's just so much depth to it. And then even romance itself, right? You say romance, well, there's monster romance, there's dark romance, there's
Normal.
contemporary romance, there's same thing. Like you could just go on and on. When in contemporary, you have hockey romance, you have cowboy romance, you have, I mean, you could just go on and on and on, and the world is like never ending, which is kind of what I love about it too, is that the content is limitless. You could really just go on and on of like where you kind of fit in. Something that drew me to your account in general was you have a ability to be very genuine. I get this vibe of like, hey, I'm talking to a friend that I just met, but I've never met you, right? Like you have a very calming, like, here's the books I read and this is why you should read them and why you like them. But then you'll have like this aesthetic post that has like a candle going and like, here's their books for fall or whatever. And I don't know, I feel like you spend a lot of time on it. You care about it. You love what you're putting out there. Over here,
Thank you.
fangirling.
I
Fangirling, Miss
appreciate
Carly.
that 'cause like it's always been my fear being online is like getting to the point that it could feel like inauthentic. And like I'm literally sitting in a chair in the corner of my room with all my like trophies behind me. And like at the end of the day, like I'm just kind of like a fantasy nerd and I just want to chat books. So it makes me really happy that that comes through the camera.
Yeah.
All right. So, in the Crowns of Nyaxia world as a whole, who's your favorite character and why?
It is Misha. And it's not just because I just read her duet. This character specifically, not saying that Carissa doesn't put attention and detail in every character, but this character has like such complexity to her. And it's not just like the religious trauma. It's not just like the cult. It's not just the dynamic with the gods. Like, even just how she became a vampire and like her internal battle with herself. Like, I just think she's such a fascinating character. And I said this again, like in my reviews, but when I had finished the first duet, I was like, I really hope we get to know her more. And it's just like what she had teased about her and just how close her and Rain were. I was like, there has to be so much more to this character. And I feel like it was that excitement that like brought me into the duet where I was like, oh, like she's just through and through sweet and like hopeful, even though she's like dark too. Like I love that she does have that like glimmer of hope no matter what, even if she's gone through the darkest of things. So she's my favorite just because I don't know if I necessarily feel like I've gone through what she's gone through, but reading her story, I feel like I understand her.
That's
Right.
fair. That sunshine character with tons and tons of depth, which doesn't honestly always happen that way.
No, sometimes like the really not happy characters, but because she's doesn't just because she's happy doesn't mean she's not
Oh yeah.
like has dark side.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I love about her, that it's not just surface level. She's not like just like this happy character that's like
Right.
overcome all of these things. Like you still get to
Mhm.
see that she has so many moments of self-doubt and having to overcome things constantly and having to really face her demons. And that's why I love The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk, because you do see her finally having to like face it all.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And it's not just her facing it, it's a lot of it is even though she is struggling with her own internal battles, she still has the courage to make sure Asar doesn't fall into his demons as well. She just has like this, like, I mean, like you guys have been saying, that she's just so complex and she just has this heart for caring, and she, just because she's going through her own shit doesn't mean like she ignores what Asar is going through or anyone else around her is going through. Ultimately, like even Rain in part 2, like she's trying to protect Rain so he doesn't fall victim to any shit that she's bringing in.
Yeah, she won't even go
Absolutely.
to House
You
of
can see
Night.
it too.
She's like, we're not going to House of Night.
No.
It's just like, I don't care to save me. Like, I can go down.
You know that she's always so self-sacrificial too, and that's kind of where I'm like, girl. But she also like is a badass. It's like this weird.
Mhm.
She's incredibly complex, and yeah, I think that knowing that the second duology was going to be following her, I wanted so desperately to know who her love interest was going to be. So Songbird was like really exciting for us because I was wanting to see like this girl deserves like the best of the best, and we all know Asar is that man, but he's this dark, broody, quiet guy.
him.
He's the best. So Michelle, you got to ask her the follow-up question there.
Yeah. So, what about your favorite couple?
Okay, this is really hard to think about because there's so many. And I think the romance, that's like the thing about Chris. Like, Carissa does romance so well. If I had to pick, I still think it's Araya and Rain.
Okay.
And I think it's because of what they overcame from like the second book to the from the first book to the second book. And I feel like I believe so much in their chemistry. Not that I don't believe in the others, but I think that was a relationship where I had like doubted it. And then to like come back from it, I was like, oh, like you had to like earn me back as a reader. And I just like love when a man grovels. But
Yes.
very tied was Misha and Azar because Azar just loves her through and through. And he's like healthy for her. Not that Rain's not healthy for her either. There is like slight toxicity. Well done
Kind of what we
toxicity where
love.
it doesn't make you like.
Yeah. I just got done talking about dark romantic or dark romantasy, so I'm not here to judge. I love it all.
I hope that one of you guys shares my favorite couple.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I
Go
love
ahead.
Misha and Asar. Like, I really do. I like Asar is probably my favorite in like between Rain and Asar. He's my favorite. He actually might be my favorite in all of, even with the Six Scorched Roses and Slaying. But my favorite FMC, so I guess my favorite character or my couple would be from Six Scorched Roses. I just love Lilith. I love her storyline. I love everything that she went through and how they went through it together and like how that has gone through the series and will continue to go through the series. So, yeah.
They were such a sweet couple. Like,
Oh, yeah.
out of all the characters, like, truly sweet. I loved them.
And I loved like
because he's just a romantic.
Yeah, but I loved
With
how
the
much of the
roses and-
story.
ugh.
Well, how much of the story you got in 100 pages too. Like there was so much depth to that story. I feel like it had for those who haven't read Six Scorched Roses, it's only like 120 pages. You're sorely missing out. You need to go read it quick. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. And these characters come up if you haven't read Fallen yet. They come up anyway, and they're going to continue through the series. But more importantly, the story is great. It's one of the best novellas I've ever read. It's just so neatly put together, so well thought out. The gods are introduced. You have two new characters never met before. We have an FMC who's just a complete badass who's literally trying to save like humanity. Like she's just doing
and she's in her 30s.
And she's in her 30s.
She's in her 30s. We finally have someone that isn't like 21 or like barely out of like into adulthood. So
she's brilliant. Like people are counting on her to literally save a village.
God, yeah. I really liked. I think he's like unsung type guy because he was never doubted from day one.
Yeah,
he was interested in her, and that was that. Case closed. I want you to be my queen, and I have been loyal ever since. He didn't falter a single time. Talking about, if we haven't read it yet, I'm talking about Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and he was just like, "That's my girl, and that's it. We're done. We're done here." And I like that about him. I also like that he was not a typical vampire in the terms of the world that we're in with how brutally violent this world is. He's not a Vincent. In other words, he's not a king to be a king. He doesn't peacock around about who he is. And I loved that for him too. And I liked him that he still had a layer of depth to them that was very dark. And that Nyaxia, she's something else, isn't she? So I feel like he just really went through it, and I don't know. I liked him as probably the male main character. I love all of them, honestly. Like you can't. It's really difficult to like pick who you want, but I liked Atreus a lot.
I will say my favorite like sex scene was definitely from Asar and Misha. Literally had her on an altar worshiping her. So I will say that.
Perfect. And just everything about it. It was just so like genuine to them too. Like, that's the one thing that I do struggle with romantasy sometimes is like sex scenes just thrown in for the sake of like having them. But the way that Carissa does them feels like it does add to like the relationship or like the hidden like undertones, like on an altar, like almost like her reclaiming like herself from like her cult that took from her. Like it was just,
The
and it was
fact
just
that
fantastic.
Atraxis like
Right.
shows
It
up,
was just,
I was just like, really? Like, no, but that's the thing is like
and then
her,
Nyaxia also.
yeah, and it just like drives plot,
No
right?
problem.
She does these spice
Mhm.
scenes. I think that's what I love about her writing too, is like her spice drives plot. It's not for the sake of because I can, or I can do it every other chapter because I can and because people want to read it. You know, it doesn't feel redundant for each of the characters, even with Lilith and Vale. Each of their books, separately with the spice, were different. Each of the scenes were different. The way they were written were different. The words shared were different. And you don't always get that. A lot of writers who do multiple, books, you can just tell how they write spice. When you've read so many books of a certain author, there can be a feeling of redundancy. And I don't think Carissa does that at all.
Going off of that, it was really interesting to hear the response to the Shadowborn duet because it did, in a way, feel different than the Nightborn duet. And it felt so true to their relationship. And it's funny because, like, I love her War of Lost Hearts trilogy. And I actually feel like the writing and the way the characters developed was really reminiscent of what I loved about the War of Lost Hearts. And it's funny because then people were like, well, I don't really like this duet or for XYZ reasons. And I was like, well, it wasn't like she was gonna just copy paste the Nightborn duet. Like it had to be true to them and like their
Mm-hmm.
feelings and their relationship. And I think it just goes to show like how much she wants the story to feel unique and like how it needed to be a true duet. Not that you can read it on its own, but it does feel very intentional, which is something I really appreciate rather than just following like a formula of, well, this worked with this book, this worked with that. So I'm just gonna replicate it, but different people.
Right. Like it would be weird to me if now Misha goes to some other underworld and now there's a series of, you know, dead Kajari or something. Like we have like another game like thing happening
Right.
in book like in Songbird or in but here's the thing, I think readers too like consistency. They say they want something different, but they don't really. They really want like the same feeling each time. You know, everyone wants their happily ever after. Everyone wants their characters certain things like in tropes. But I think I agree with you. I feel like the Shadowborn duet in particular is vastly different than the Nightborn duet. And by design, I mean, these characters are vastly different. The world, it should be different. And true fans will know that because now we're about to go into House of Blood and we're about to have Septimus, who's our dark, more
Yes.
darkest of the male, main characters. He's our darkest
Ready.
character. Yeah. And, we know from what she's posted that his love interest is human. And, we kind of get more and more as we go into it. But those two books should also be like on their own. They are described as duologies. That's the intent, is that it's not a series that all flows in one. She's doing this like unique, different thing. And I agree with you. I wish that it had been more well received than it is and people didn't have that feedback of like, it wasn't like the Nightborn duet. Well, of course it's not. It was never meant to be.
100%. It's so interesting to feel that way too, because don't get me wrong, like if you can have issues with the plot or whatever, but I just felt she was so true to the characters and I felt like it was a good blend from going from like the Nightborn duet, which is like rivals to lovers, and then having like, Misha and Azar's dynamic, which is a bit more like Grumpy Sunshine-esque. Like, and then you end up having now enemies to lovers. And I'm like, oh, but it's fascinating because the way she describes the she's a mortal bounty hunter, but she is in trouble with both the mortals and the gods. And she has like a goddess blessed sword, but she partners with him to like slay gods. Like it makes me excited because I think if we would have had that type of story is as the center duet, it would have really made Misha Nazar's story feel odd. And I think it is like this nice, like I don't want to say like stalled, but it was really nice pacing. Like if you think of the series as a whole, it does feel like a nice moment of like, I want to understand the world more. Like we got to understand so many more places. Like we went to the underworld. Like we
Yeah.
got to finally see more of the gods and like how meddling they are. And also like the complexity of Nyaxia. Like, I really didn't like her, but at moments I was actually sympathizing with her. And I think that's one of the
Right.
things I
She was
love
done
about Carissa's
dirty.
writing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like,
Well,
Carissa
yeah.
can make a villain be multidimensional. And that's something I really, really
Mhm.
appreciate.
Yeah, like Asasia. I
Right.
can't stand her, but she
There are
all
times where I'm
yeah.
like, okay, she's okay. But
Is
other
she?
times
Yeah.
she's
She
not.
does something again, and
And
you're like,
Yeah.
well, and I think a lot of people who have their issues with this duet, you have to realize it's the Crowns of Nyaxia series. It's like, yes, we have our FMCs, our MMCs, and we love them, but the series is about the gods and ultimately, and how the gods have impacted these worlds, and how, you know, it's going to further their development. And that's why, in the Shadowborn duet, we have Nyaxia. There's brief mention of vaguely other gods, but in this duet, there's more of a focus on the gods and how, god magic works and the different types of god magic. And we learned a lot more of Nyaxia and why she's such a bitch all the time, which I don't blame her. If my husband was killed and his eye gouged out and put into a sword, and then his heart
oh,
somewhere else, and all this,
His teeth.
like, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too, honestly. So, and then,
yeah,
and like
she's
the
like
white
so
pantheon
alone.
all
Yeah.
sucks. I know. So she has her like little children, which she kind of like hates, but not really, but kind of, she's just bitter, and the white pantheon all suck. Like they all are awful in their own unique, god awful way.
Truly.
So yeah.
Do you think Carissa would give us like a Nyaxia book? Like, so we can actually see her relationship?
That'd be a good novella too.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Right?
kind of
'Cause,
know
I
it,
mean, we
like
kinda
pieced together,
lost
right?
art.
Yeah.
Right, but that's like saying Septimus's story, because we kind of do piece together, but we don't actually know his story from his perspective.
Yeah. That's fair.
I thought he was unattractive based on the first duet, and then Carissa like posted artwork, and I'm like, what? And she posted artwork of Vincent, and I was like, I had this.
Oh, I've always
So
loved Vincent. No, I've always Vincent. Yes, Daddy. Ultimately.
I was like, he redeems himself in like this book too, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad Carissa gave us that.
Yeah. And yeah, Septimus, I wasn't sure if he was attractive either in the first book. And I think that's kind of because of my perspective, which was Orea's perspective of him, which was like this kind of skeezy guy, like offering cigarettes outside of this like
Yeah.
garden area. I was like, who is this guy? But then you like remember he's a vampire, so naturally he needs to be like ridiculously attractive. But yeah, to your point too, Michelle, I wanted to kind of draw on that. The series title is Crowns of Nyaxia. And what we're seeing so far is Nyaxia's children going around and fucking shit up and taking stuff for her. And you see it kind of repeatedly. So I'm really curious to see what happens in House of Blood and what the next duology does for rounding out the title of this series. I think it's going to really like come up even more, especially in book 6. I'm very curious to see like how all this kind of like plays out.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there has been this reoccurring theme of like vengeance, and regardless if it's in like small doses, but like as like a story arc, it is like Nyaxia's vengeance. And I feel like that is really going to come to fruition in this last duet. And so I'm so curious to see how she explores that. And like, if this is like slaying of the gods, like who's going to be slayed? Like, she hasn't really like offed anyone in this series.
She hasn't
really.
had to, right? I mean, Misha.
Nope.
Misha kind of did some of that for her. I saw her. Yeah, we're doing our things. So let's get into that real quick. Of the series, which of the books is your favorite, and why? Which is a tough question because they are all so different. But I'm curious.
You mentioned it. It was Six Scorched Roses.
Mm,
And for the
yes.
exact reason you said, it was just such a surprise. And you would think it's a full-fledged book, but I think it's just a testament to like her craft as a writer, like how she was
Mhm.
sucked you in, how she added depth and complexity, showed you more parts of this universe that somehow then overlapped with the rest. Like you feel connected to them, you feel their sweetness, you feel like the love for them. And it's actually the first book in the series that I had reread. And I did end up rereading Slaying the Vampire Conqueror because it came out in trad. And so they all are, but that was the one that I had like reread too. And it made me just re-fall in love with Sis Chorus Roses. So I'd say that's my favorite.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fair.
So good.
What are your favorites?
Oh, that's tough, honestly.
It
I
is.
so I don't give out 5 stars a lot. And I absolutely love Serpent because it's the first one and it was so fun. I loved Araya. I loved her so much. Honestly, it was the first book we covered in our podcast. So I have to say that one was probably my favorite. And it was a 5-star for me. But recently of her books, but you know what's so the novella was 5 stars too. Man, it's a really I just struggle with this question, on all honesty, because I
It's hard.
read Slaying and I was texting Michelle. I'm like, girl, this is so good. Like she does so much in like 300 pages, like so much with these characters. Like there is so much depth. We travel so much. We go to all these different like we do some full Game of Thrones like locations in this book. We were talking about that when we did the episode for Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. We literally go to like this place that has areas that they can't go into because now the moon has manipulated the tides and like we're in this like and then we're going with to attack these lizard things later and then we got this other bitch over here with the blood and like then she's like doing something like she's dipping into her mind and this magic with the threads and I mean, she just like creates these worlds, and I'm like, how did this girl do this in 300 pages? Like, how did it? And then explain it to me because I don't know anything about this. Like, how was I like, oh yeah, we're dipping into the threads now. Like I am following this. Like how does she do it? I don't know. So it's tough. It's a tough answer for me. I'm really terrible at this question. But I'm gonna say the first book only because it was the catalyst to keep me reading the series, and I've loved all of them. So there, I did it.
Very valid answer. I totally get it.
For me, it's between the first book and Songbird, just because. So I love the way the world was built for Songbird. Because it mimics Dante's Inferno, and like I'm a huge literary nerd, so just reading that, I'm like, oh, I know what Ring of Hell we're in, and the whole aspect of the soul eaters and the complexity of the souls in the different levels as they're descending through hell. And then we have like the whole Horcrux situation basically, and we're getting that again this book. So I did love that aspect of that, and again the first book because of everything that Danny said. But so it's really difficult because there's two vastly different worlds, even though it's technically the same world.
Totally. You know what's interesting? Maybe I'm just like too big of like a Tim Burton nut, but I don't see a lot of people comparing Azar to Corpse Bride. And he literally has a dog. He's like so lovey and simpy. And I'm like, and they play the piano. I'm like,
Yeah.
is this not inspiration? Like he's a musician and he's like in the I felt like really connected with like this world specifically too, because it was reminiscent. Even like there's a house there.
Yeah.
And he has friends there.
I know his
The
friends
sentient
there.
house
Yeah.
that just deposits clothes and whatever you want
Morthrin.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that would be convenient.
That would be, I would say.
I
In the
will say,
magical
I
bathtub.
really love. Okay. I really love the way she developed Azar specifically in this book.
Mhm.
I thought it was so well done because we got glimpses of him in the first book and it really was like Misha's story. But the fact that so much of an emphasis was placed on him, and like as she's further diving into this world and building the world, you get to see her also building him as a character. I thought it was like a really nice juxtaposition how she was doing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
like how he's a unique MMC. Like he's not like Rain is kind of like, I love Rain, but he's kind of in the stereotypical like I'm all muscles, but I also have a heart. Like that's something that we see recurring, kind of similar to Cassian in a way, and Akatar. So I love how unique Asar's personality is because he's literally a nerd.
Yeah.
He's a really hot nerd, but he's a nerd. He's a history nerd. That's it.
I love him.
And he likes just collecting shit. He's like, this is important. I'm gonna put it on my pretty little bookshelf with all of my decorations and everything. Like he's just a book guy, and then misunderstood
A dog
because
dad.
you know
Love a good dog dad.
yeah, a dog dad.
He
That's the
did
first thing
necromancy
he
for his dog.
resurrects.
Brought his
I
dog back.
know.
Brought his dog back to life.
Oh,
I mean, what's
fucking
not to
Malik.
like?
That's what I'm saying.
The
He's like
end of
Victor.
Songbird. Right. No, that's exactly. And the end of Songbird, when I was like, where the fuck did Lucy go? Like, no mention of Lucy. She just goes. I'm like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah,
You can't just say.
And then Krista comes out. She's like, Lucy's
gone.
fine. She's like, hey, Lucy's fine. She's like the community. The community was like, what happened to Lucy? She's like, she'll
It's
be
an
back.
important
I
question.
do love how active people get over these characters.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think about it, like Krista too
Especially the
probably
dogs.
like already had most of her second book done. So for her, she's like, oh yeah, Lucy comes back. She maybe didn't like fully connect that we would have this large of a gap of not knowing if Lucy was okay, because for her, Lucy was fine. So like then she's like, oh shit, yeah, oh yeah, Lucy's fine. Everyone, don't panic, don't worry. She's not dead again.
You're like, she's like, I'll kill off some people, just not her.
Yeah. Don't
No,
worry.
if anything, I feel like if anything happened to Lucy, people would be upset. I was upset when they had to sacrifice the horses because Misha's talking about how like good the horses are and they're so sweet,
I hated that
and
too.
they had to sacrifice them. I'm like, my husband's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, the horses, they're dead. He's like giving me this weird look. I'm like, you know what? Just leave me alone in my feelings about these horses.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
That was particularly brutal too. Yeah.
I understand they had their purpose, and then you know they were talking about how because death comes so quickly for the Bloodborne that this is like a justice for them. Blah blah blah. Why do we have to fucking like just gut them? I was upset. Understand, but upset. Okay, so what recurring themes did you notice in Chris's writing, and what did you resonate with most? You touched on this briefly earlier, but can you go more in depth into these themes?
Yeah, so the one I had mentioned was the vengeance theme, but that's more like an overarching where it feels like it keeps building, but there's like little pieces of it throughout. I think there is very much like survival against the odds. I feel like that constantly is happening with almost every single character, whether it's in their interpersonal relationships, their events they have to do, their quests, their competitions, which I think is I think it really helps with the pacing, actually, the survival against the odds, because you do have these like games, not games, but you have these high stakes moments that you believe in the power of not just their physical power, but a lot of times it's their emotional and their mental state that helps them also overcome it. And we see that a lot with Misha specifically and Azar in the second book. I think there's also this reoccurring theme of kind of like sacrifice, but not just for like the sake of sacrificing yourself to the underworld, but sacrifice in the sense of like willing to get past like yourself, willing to get past like your own trauma, what you've gone through, so that you can move forward and like be a better person or better version of yourself. And I think every single character goes through that, where they have to like face their demons to be able to get onto the other side. And it's usually when those characters finally come together and you see like the relationship can withstand because they actually have bettered themselves. And I feel like that's a common theme throughout, is like betterment of the characters, more like mental psyche more than anything. There's a heavy dose of divine God meddling. That happens in every book, which I think is fun. From like it pulls you back out of the relationship and puts you back into like the bigger universe of all the players.
Mhm.
And like Nyaxia really wants this. I'm like doing a puppet thing, but it's like she wants this, but they're all like snipping their cords and they're like, actually, we're not really under you. And she's like desperately trying to like reinsert herself. And then I think the biggest is just there's so much political intrigue. I mean, it's literally the 3 vampire courts and them all figuring out power. And I mean, so much of both of these duets was literally like, who's going to rule, how ruling happens. And I think I don't want to like spoil much if like for some reason someone's not doing, but like even with Misha at the end, like
you can.
her being able,
it's fine. Say whatever you want.
Perfect. Her becoming like the queen of death isn't because she had a right to a throne. It's because she literally showed compassion for the people in the underworld and how she was able to build that up. Like, that was just it was such a different approach than everyone else that came to rule. And hers was truly because the people believed she was like rebuilding them and like cared for them, which is just so true to her as like a sweet character who is constantly selfless. And it finally like rewarded her for being that way.
Yeah. What's your favorite that you like to read, or like what you would want to see again in the next duology?
I want some more vengeance.
Okay.
Just because I'm really curious because it feels like Septimus is kind of like getting his court of all the courts is like heavily damned by Nyxia.
Yes,
And he has to be mad. And the fact that he becomes like this like almost, I don't think they're reluctant allies, but they become allies. They're supposed to be enemies. Like, and they're both vengeance driven. Like, I'm super curious to see how they don't get blinded by that. Like, I think they're the two characters to probably get blinded by it and have to like reel themselves back versus everyone else feels like they have almost like a clear mission. So this is just something I'm really just curious to see how she does it because I don't actually feel like I have a good grasp because we haven't seen the intricacies of Septimus. We just know that he's kind of this like nosy character who kind of gives villain vibes, but like isn't. He's just kind of inserts himself because he wants to know what's happening. He's very strategic. And I'm like, what's your angle?
Right. And I think a lot of what he does, I mean, like you said, his court has been scorned for centuries. And no one knows, Misha even says, no one knows actually what happened except those in the Bloodborne house. So we don't know for sure. And like his own brother was like, in slaying, you see ultimately what happened to his brother, who was supposed to be like the chosen one to bring them out of, this curse, and she like laughs in his face and cuts off his head. So he has this kind of weight that falls on him, and I think a lot of his drive is to just save his people, which he doesn't come off as a I want to save my people type of guy. That's more of Atreus, that he just wants to save his people, but they're cousins and they're from the same house, and we don't know a lot of the Bloodborne and how they behave so well. So yeah, I'm curious to see that too. I'm just really excited because this is there's so many question marks with this entire area. So
yes, and it's one of those two that I just don't like. Has he been watching? It feels like he's I don't want to say lurker, but it feels like he's been just like watching everyone. So I'm like, are you like a romantic? Do you kind of like hate everyone low key? Like, what is your like? I feel like he's gonna be like, once he falls in love, he's gonna be like not a big simp, but he's gonna be like the most like I'll burn the world for you kind of
touch her and
vibe.
die.
And I'm
yes. Although Asar is pretty much like
look
literally
at her die.
Like, yeah. Well, she did die.
And
He's
like,
like,
death
like I
too.
will continue to burn the entire world until we get her back. Like, but I feel like because like he became himself because of Misha's death. Like without that, like I don't know that he would have stepped into his own like godhood situation without having to like forcibly step into that with his love for her, which is another part of like wrapping that romantasy in, the romance piece so well into her plot of like she's just an author that does that incredibly well too. You were talking about that earlier about how some romantasy, usually great romantasy authors, can use the romance piece to combine it with the story and drive the overall plot. And I think Carissa does that exceptionally well. She does it really well. I'm excited to see for Septimus, to your point too, in the next two books, how the romance drives plot, because he doesn't seem to be like a super romantic guy. He seems like very agenda driven and kind of sneaky and, like always up to something.
Quiet ones that you got to watch out for, though. Those are the ones that give you a good time.
Wow. Oh, well, yes, they're paying attention, usually.
All right, so let's transition out of Crowns of Nyaxia and go back to Bookstagram Book Talk. So we've talked about your journey so far with Bookstagram, Book Talk, in that space. What are your goals in terms of your social media platform?
Yeah, so like I said, I've been here for like over 2 years, which just feels insane. And I feel like so much has changed too. Like just how everyone talks about books, like the genre. Like I feel like I dabbled in a lot more genres when I first started, and now I've just really settled into romantasy being my favorite. Not that I don't ever stray from it, but I feel like if you come to my page, 9 out of 10 times you're seeing a romantasy book. So and I love it. I mean, it's I'm the type of person that I'll go to a restaurant I love and I buy the exact same dish every single time because I know it's a good time and I know I'm gonna be happy with it, and at least with romantasy, there's so many flavors of it, like, I'm never gonna be bored. But I think the thing with being as I don't wanna say avid, but, like, as much as many books as I consume. So, like I said, I've read over 100 books this year, and I create content. I work a full-time job. I'm a mom, and I have a life, and I think it's really hard sometimes to find balance in all of that. And this year, I stepped a lot more into reading arcs and, like, new releases and really trying to stay on top of that. And sometimes I do lose balance when it comes to what types of books I'm reading and like making sure I'm reading diversely and making sure that I'm picking up books not just because they are the newest thing coming out, and making sure I'm exploring more balance in general with just, I guess, yeah, the type of books I'm reading. But I think that's the hardest thing for me is just not just like keep going, 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 and like taking the time. Like sometimes I actually have to like step away from like my account for like 2 days and be like, okay, where am I? Like, what do I want to read next? And not feeling like it's I don't want to say a job because I love I love this. This is my hobby. And I think that's like making sure I'm keeping everything in perspective. So in short, one of my biggest goals is finding more balance. When I started my page, I never ever would have been like like brands want to reach out to me or publishers want to reach out to me, and I am so flattered whenever it happens. And I think it also is like those exciting moments too where like indie authors do reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, can you read my book? Like I'd love for you to pick it up." And I'm like, "Who am I?" Like who am I that you actually want to talk to me? Like 2 years, like 2.5 years ago, I was just lurking in the comments. And so I do constantly feel really humbled by people wanting to listen to me and, just pay attention to my recommendations. It does mean a lot to me, and I am very, very flattered and humbled just that people care. Like I do feel really, really, really thankful for the communities on both of my pages. And I like love responding to comments. And the funny thing is like if I miss a comment, it's usually because I didn't get the notification, and like a month later I'll be like, "Thank you so much for commenting." Because at the end of the day, like I just want to talk to people, and I don't want it to ever seem like I'm not thankful that people support me in like whatever capacity they can.
No, that's the vibe I get for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So with reading, because you've read 100 books this year and you've read, I'm sure, hundreds more in years past, what have you learned about yourself through reading?
This is such an interesting thing to say. Weird, I don't know. But I have figured out that the some of the female main characters I am most annoyed with tend to be things I don't like in myself.
Oh.
And I feel like it's actually been interesting moments of self-reflection. Don't get me wrong, sometimes a female main character can just be awful, and I really don't like hypocritical female main characters or ones that are, like, waiting for someone else to save them. And I think everyone has, like, their own preferences with female main characters, but there have been moments where I'm like, "Oh, that female main character is, like, consistently doubting herself," or she is, like, falling back into, like, just being I don't wanna say, like, too emotionally charged, but I'm like, "You're smart, like, you can do that." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't love when I act that way," and I feel like I try and give, like, the female character grace. It's interesting because I love, like, Sparkle the Everflame in that series, and I feel like people are so hard on DM, and they, like, hate her, and they think she's really annoying. But there are parts of her personality where I'm like, I understand that, like, maybe I'm annoying, and so I feel like I'm a DM defender because by book 3, I think she really does overcome a lot. But that's probably the biggest thing I've learned is people tend to be really, really hard on female main characters. And I don't think they're as hard on the male main characters. And some of the male main characters are awful. And so
Yeah.
I think it's overcoming that.
But that's just like, for male main characters, like, oh, he's just morally gray. It's like, no, those are red flags.
no, you're like,
just because you're wrapped in abs does not mean it's okay.
Totally. And one of my favorite series is like Zodiac Academy. And one of the male main characters has to like, one of the female main characters like really puts him in his place. And you're like, why would he reject her? And I'm like, because he was awful. Like, that's why she rejected him. Like, why else wouldn't she? And I'm like, why would you give him such grace, but not her at the same level? It's just, yeah. I think that's
Now
like
we're
the one
getting
thing
into,
I really
like,
come to.
reader psychology too, which there's definitely, that could be a whole episode, quite literally. Because, like, why do we as a society, why is that okay? Or, like, why are we annoyed by DM who's, like, struggling with, why are we getting frustrated with her? It's because in the book space, we want kind of like what we're not. We want the fantasy element, and maybe DM is just, like, too real in that sense. And people don't want to read about that because it's too real. They want the fantasy element even more than just, like, the magic or the world or whatever. They also want the character to seem larger than what could really be true in life, so it doesn't poke to their own insecurities, their own things that they struggle with. I think a lot of people feel that way about Violet in Iron Flame, the first half of why is she like come on girl, get it together, so whiny. And I will admit that I felt the same way, but like in hindsight too, like looking back at it, because really what all of us as readers are doing is we're like totally Monday night quarterbacking like every single one of these characters. But I digress. The other thing is that it's like for Violet, she is an early 20-something who isn't romantically mature. And we talked about that when we covered the book too. So like you kind of have to give Violet some grace. Did I enjoy reading it? Not particularly. But yes, I agree with you. I think that that's something people don't like to look at. They don't want to see that. Yeah.
I think it goes back to like reading is super subjective and like, do you like being in this person's point of view? And if not, that could shape the way you feel about the entire story, regardless if it's a great book and the way it's structured. If you just don't click with them, you don't click.
Right.
I think that's fair too, of like where people will be quick to not give things more of a chance. And I think I've seen that in this series where the Songbird and Heart and Stone versus the Ashes release and even the Serpent release, like there's just, she kind of stepped away from the extremely popular genres and like did something new and different. It wasn't as popular as the first two. And I don't know if that's just standard in series that they're not as popular, but to me, I was like, why is no one talking about this series more? Like, why don't I see it more? Why aren't more people talking about it? It's so good. It's so well written. And it is. It's because it's not enemies to lovers. It's not, I mean, I wouldn't consider him her enemy. Like, they're just like, they're not friends, but they're just like they're forced proximity is what it is. And so like that, I feel like which is a hugely popular trope, but I feel like because she did something totally different than she did in the first two books, that readers are looking for that kind of comfort of like, I want to kind of know what you're going to do next. And what I kind of love about Carissa is like, I have no idea what she's about to do to us. Like at any point, I don't know. I know we're going to get like sort of a happy-ish ending, maybe. Like, you don't know. Like, that's kind of why, yeah. And, like, at what cost also? Like, you know? So it's kind of just like, yeah.
I feel like she's going to devastate us a bit in this. I think she's going to put us through it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like she kind of has to.
100%. Yeah. Everything can't tie just neatly into a bow, especially when you're literally playing with the god of night and her real just all the betrayal that she's felt, and then literally queen of death, god of death. Like, yeah, shit's about to get real and it's gonna be rough.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm like messed me
up. I want it. Yes, mess me up. Then what does that say about me psychologically? But I'm like,
Chris,
another
so
conversation.
I know.
I went to her book signing, and she's just like the nicest person. And
So
it's
sweet.
so sweet to watch the way that she talks about her characters too. Like you can tell there's just like so much care. Not that all authors don't feel that way, but she talks about like the friends and like how much attention goes into them, and you just know that she's really proud of what she's put on like paper, and that she's like writing because she truly enjoys it. And that's what I feel like I respect so much about this duet specifically, is like you can tell that she wrote it the way that made her happy as a writer, and that it reflects like how she feels like the character should have been. I feel like she could have done things differently. She could have made it more of like the first duet formula, and she just didn't. And that's why I feel like I loved her War of Lost Heart trilogy so much, because it does have like a similar tone, even though that is like a romantic fantasy. And I do think with this duet specifically, she brought the fantasy elements way more to the forefront, and it actually kind of competed with the romance, which I didn't mind because I think it was needed for the world development. But I think for others, like they might have expected a little bit different approach to the romance.
Well, I'm hoping that through all of our coverage and you being on too, and just us talking about the series more, that people talk about it more. I love this series, and I'm so excited to keep it going. You kind of touched on this a bit, but what are like themes or tropes that you automatically are like, oh, I'm so excited for this? Like, you know that that's going to be something that you want to read, and you want to read it over and over again.
True enemies to lovers. I don't even
Def-
want people to say enemies to lovers anymore half the time. I'd rather go in just knowing they hate each other. I want a true enemy. But I think everyone's like definition is a little slightly different. I want them to like absolutely despise each other and like want to like each other. One of my favorite dynamics too is like a forbidden love, because I love yearning. And I feel like usually a forbidden love like easily has that yearning coupled with it, where like they know they can't be together, but they really want each other. And it's like the buildup is just like, ah, like I want to be like just as tortured as they are. I've recently started loving Reluctant Allies, because it kind of
Mhm.
plays into that like forced proximity, but it's just like another spin on it, where usually both of the characters like are equal power balance. I don't really like when there is like an imbalance of power. It's just not been my recent favorite thing. So I like the Reluctant Allies because typically it's like two powerful characters coming together. I would say like I do love a powerful female main character, and not from the sense of she has to have like an ability. Like I like if like the power comes from like her knowledge, or it is her physical strength, or it is like a magical ability. Like I don't like when a female main character is stripped of her power, and I don't like when she has to overly rely on others, because I just I just feel like it's not that hard to make like a female main character like believe in herself. The worst trope is when a female character is super powerful and then she loses her powers. And you're like, nothing else. We couldn't have done anything else.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I, the true enemies to lovers. Well, and I would think like the paired one, it goes well with Ori and Rain too, but like they weren't really enemies though. I wouldn't put them as enemies personally.
Their houses were.
Yeah, but
They're
like they
rivals.
But
weren't.
It,
Yeah.
yeah.
Carissa describes them as rivals to lovers, because there's been a lot of debate, because
Yeah.
I feel like I said they were enemies to lovers, but, and I've also said like villain gets the girl for Rain, which like is kind of true, not kind of not. And so I think
Dynamic.
it is like right.
Yeah. Septimus is gonna be interesting. I'm excited to see where we go.
The enemies.
Yeah.
True enemies.
I'm
I'm
excited
so
to read it.
ready.
So I think it's time where we should play a game called Fuck, Marry, Kill. So we will give you 3 characters, and you have to order them in whether, you know, you would fuck, marry, or kill them. Okay. Septimus, Atroxus,
Ooh.
or Suisar.
This is hard. No one can judge me because I actually love all of these characters. Okay, we're gonna fuck Septimus, we're gonna marry Asar, and we're gonna kill Atroxus.
That is the right answer. I agree
That's
with
fair.
that.
That is yes.
All
I
right,
agree
you
with
can
that
do
as well.
this to us either individually or combined, however you want, just because I feel like we've done damage. So now it's your turn.
Okay, Michelle, we're gonna fuck, marry, kill Nyaxia, Lilith, and Rain.
Ooh, diabolical.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. All right. I would fuck Rain, marry Lilith because she's just stable and she's just intelligent and I love her. And then I would kill Nyaxia. She's too crazy. Goddess
fair.
of Night or not, she's just too crazy. I cannot.
That's
I
fair.
hope we got any redemption, like a true redemption in the end. Even if like we think she's still evil, like I hope we can get why she's evil.
Yeah, I get it too. But, you know, that's too much. That's a little too much trauma for me to handle on a daily basis.
Did make everyone vampires.
Yeah.
A little
He was
bit.
a little bit pissed off.
A little bit.
Smidge. Yeah. All right,
Right,
Carly,
Danny, you
you
go.
can hit me with it.
Okay, we're gonna fuck, marry, kill Vincent, Misha, or Araya.
That's terrible. I feel like Vincent would be a good lay, so that's definitely where I'm going there.
Yes, he
So-
would be.
So, yeah. But now I gotta kill off one of my
Especially the
favorite
end.
characters. I'm gonna marry Misha. She's so sweet,
So, Oray is dead?
I guess. Which is really wrong because honestly, like I should flop those over. I already said it. I've already decided. That's what we're doing. Fuck. That was tough. And then I immediately regretted it, but I had already chosen. So like once it's chosen, it's out of the mouth and it's free into the world now. So I've made my choice. If I had to do it again, I'd probably change it, but it's too late now. Here we are. And now it's Michelle's fault, okay? I have spent hours talking to her about Vincent. This is her fault. This is what I would like to say. So
Yes,
I
Daddy
do
Vincent.
love him. I feel
love him
like
so
I
much.
really despised him,
I
but
feel like he'd really know what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Like, yeah, he does.
he's had like what? How many hundreds of years to figure it out? He'd be okay. He'd be probably
How
he'd
old
be
is
a good
he?
time. God, who knows? I don't know. Guy's like 800 years old or something. Should be thoroughly repulsing. Like, not a good. Yeah,
I don't think him
know.
and Rain were that far apart. I
No, they
think
weren't.
were just a couple of centuries apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. They weren't. They
'cause
weren't that
Rain,
far
like,
apart in age.
300.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Old vampires.
So,
It's so funny because
it
people are like,
doesn't
oh, I
matter.
hate age gap romances. And I was like, they need to be minimum of 400 years apart.
Yeah, huh? Because if it's like 20, that's creepy. 1,000, whatever.
Right? Like Saris is 24 and Kingfisher's like what, 1800? I think.
That just means it took him that long to know what he was doing. That's what men need. They need centuries.
Centuries. Who said we were harsh on the female main characters? I do love a man written by a woman.
Don't we all? We all do. On that note, what's your favorite romance trope? What do you like reading the most? I was gonna guess enemies to lovers because I feel like you're like chef's kiss. I love enemies to lovers, but yeah, what's your favorite? What's your least favorite? What do you hate reading?
So I've actually been reading a lot more forbidden love because
Ooh,
I
okay.
feel like if I'm being told it is enemies to lovers, I have my own expectations. And when it's not that, I actually like can't really come back because I'm like, it's not like if you're marketing that to me, then I don't think you're like executing it correctly. And that's again like a subjective exercise. But I feel like this year, especially, I've realized the importance of marketing and that it is a very valid critique to be like, you sold me this type of story and that's not what it was. And regardless if the story is a really great story, that's not what I was fed.
Marketing, I feel like, has been that way, or like, oh, this is another Fourth Wing, this is another Akatar, or it's like, why can't it be its own thing? But I feel like they're trying so hard to like push the most popular genres that people want to read, and like if it kind of maybe fits into that, they're gonna say that, versus I would much rather you tell me what it actually is than that.
I deeply struggle with book comps for that reason. I totally get it because if you have 3 seconds to hook someone, then like do it. But if you can see in like all of my reviews and like when I talk about books, like very, very rarely am I going to do a book comp because I'm like, I'd rather tell you what it's about and what I love about the book because hopefully those are the pieces you connect with. I tend to be like a trope shopper. So like you'll see like my list of tropes because I'm like, maybe that will capture you. But I'm not going to be the type of person to be like, if you love this book, you're going to love this book. Cause I'm like, I don't know what you loved about it. And like, you might
Fair.
have loved this because you love the writing. You might have loved this because you love this specific character. And I'm like, I don't have that much time with you. So I'm not going to curate that experience and somehow harm this book because this is your like God tier book.
That's fair.
But with tropes, my least favorite trope, this is like so personal. I can't stand cheating. And like, I think there's been 2 books that had cheating in it that I actually liked. But typically, if I read cheating in a book, I actually just stop reading it. I don't see characters coming back from it. Again, I think like, again, go back to subjectivity and like your own personal experiences. It does shape what you read. And I just personally can't like, I don't say that people are like romanticizing cheating, but I personally like, having been like cheated on in the past, that's just like not something where I'm like, I can read about this mailman character and continue to romanticize him. And at the end of the day, it's just a person on paper. And I'm like, I don't have to deal with them. So I just cut them off and I'm out.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
All right, and then this is our last question. What are you currently reading?
Eldritch. So this is the second
Ooh.
book. It is perfect for spooky season. That's another book I like totally put off. Everyone said I would absolutely love it. Recently, finally picked up a lot of Carrie Lake's work. So I read Nocticadia, and then I
just
picked
gonna
up
ask.
Anathema, and now I'm reading this. I like her writing style a lot.
You too.
It's very casual. It's just a good time, and Anathema is a pretty intricate world.
No, I don't think it's that casual. I feel like she wrote well. I mean, it's not the level of depth of Carissa Broadbent. It's not that, but that's okay. I think her stories are so unique, and so are Carissa Broadbent's too. But I feel like Nocticadia touches the dark world. I just finished Nocticadia, and I started Anathema like yesterday, so I'm just like on a total Carrie Lake kick right now. Yeah, and like I didn't think I would like the professor student vibe at all. I've never read a book or been interested in that trope. It just wasn't something that I thought I would ever like. And she proved me wrong completely. I read that book and I was like, okay, I lied. I lied. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I did not think I was here for that. And then I read it and I was like, okay, I have changed my mind. And I will say, like, these 2 characters in particular, please read the book before you just take what I just said and run with that. That is not always true. I almost never like this trope. But the way that Carrie Lake writes this trope it's like a breath of fresh air. It's a totally different thing. It's something I never read before. Nocticadia in general was just dark, gothic, academia, different vibe. I mean, our female main character, she's 20, but girl's been through like a lot. She's been the adult in her household for years. So this gives her a level of maturity that most people at 20 simply just wouldn't have. And I think that's what drove me to feel more understanding of the plot and the fact that the professor is significantly younger than a professor typically would be. So the age gap is really like less than 10 years total. So it's not crazy, but here I am reading like, Kingfisher, who's 1800 and Saris is 24. So, who am I to say anything? So you're currently reading Carrie Lake, and are we liking it?
Oh yeah, Eldritch is great. I've just gotten so distracted this weekend. It's so funny because I started it yesterday morning because it was like gloomy and it was downpouring and
Oh, perfect.
it got really sunny.
Oh man.
And so
Feel the
I'm
vibe.
waiting to read it at night. So it feels like the gloominess. It's definitely like the perfect like fall time read. Like the leaves are changing outside, so we'll get there, but it's it's not how I imagined her starting the second book, especially after how the first book ended.
Don't
So very
spoil
curious
it because I'm in the
happen.
middle of Anathema now, so I don't want to know. I'm
Get ready
only
for
like
a
a couple of
wild
chapters in, and I'm already enjoying it. Yeah. Nothing like Nocticadia. It's a completely different thing. Totally, totally different thing. But a good
I
time so
actually
far.
like Anathema a lot more than Nocticadia. I love Nocticadia, but Anathema was just like such a great time. I I love the way she developed the universe. I like the way she developed characters. It's interesting that you say that you actually felt that the female character in Nocticadia was like mature for like her age because so many like repeated feedback I've seen is that she feels really immature. And I'm like, but she's young. Like,
She's
that's
romantically immature,
part.
but that's part of it. She's mature in
Yeah.
other ways. Like, she's gonna be romantically immature. She says that she's not had a lot of experience in that realm, but her other parts of her life, the parts that he understands, is that she's literally been on her own. Her mother died and she's had to support her sister's tuition. Like, she starts the story cleaning toilets. Like, how she has to be. She's 20 years old. She's working. Like, she's going to have a layer of depth. There's two separate parts of a person. Her romantic experience is young and isn't developed, and she admits that. But I think her as a character, I can't, yeah, I think there's naive parts of her, but overall, I think she's very mature in the sense that she even says it. The character herself is like, I've always been attracted to older men because I feel like all the guys around me are just worried about stupid stuff. Like, she's literally having to, she doesn't have the three basic principles taking care of her: food, shelter, and security. She lacks those three things. And so to be like under 20 something for years, lacking those three things, your maturity is going to be like instant. Like, there's no way, if you're constantly trying to overcome those three things, which she is, then you're gonna be more mature. Like, so I disagree with any of those haters that say that
It
vehemently.
makes you wonder, yeah, like, is it because, like, you have more of an expectation of female characters? Like, are your expectations higher? Because I'm like, he acts kind of immature at times in that book too, and we
Mhm.
all love him, right at dawn for him. So
Oh, he for sure does, and it's because of his privilege, and I think Carrie is very aware of that as a writer, and I identified that. He has a lot of privilege from being wealthy most of his life, and she doesn't have that, and I think it's very clear in the way she writes it, which is why I rated it very high, and I think people tend to focus very heavily on romance, especially because it is a dark romance. I think people
yeah,
tend to stick to that, but her book is like almost 500 pages. It's really long, if maybe longer than
yeah,
I read it on Kindle, but like, it's a long fucking book and it's a slow burn. So there's a lot more happening here. There's a lot more dynamic stuff going on to these characters than just to write it off as like, oh, she wasn't that mature. Oh, he, was this great, this great thing. And I think that undercuts the writer to me, in my opinion.
Like, we had so much fun tonight talking
Did.
about books, Crowns of Nyaxia, and, all things Carissa Broadbent. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciated you taking time to meet with us and just chat books.
thank
That
you
was
so
great.
much for
Thank you.
having me. This is perfect.
We are happy to be your first podcast. We're so excited that you came on and joined us. That's awesome.
It was a great time.
And if
I love to chat Crowns of Nyaxia.
Yeah. And if you haven't followed Carly already, Carly, can you give your handles on Instagram and TikTok one more time?
Yeah, on TikTok, I'm Carly Reads, and on Instagram, I'm Carly Rose Reads.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Carly for joining us tonight, talking all things Crowns of Nyaxia, all things Bookstagram. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
It was it was just such a fun time talking books, talking favorite things. There was just some good conversation there. But that
Yeah,
leads us
great.
to our mystery Q&A. These questions haven't been shared with us prior to asking.
They have not. Let's do it.
We'll go first with kind of an easy, cozy question. So now that we're entering fall, what are your fall clothing staples?
I mean, like, sweaters and jeans, I feel like, are my go-to. I feel like those are just like cozy and comfortable. But boots. I love boots coming back into style. Like, I have a bunch of different kinds of boots. A lot of, I guess I don't know if they're ankle because they like kind of go mid-calf. I don't know what they're called. But I've got a bunch of different varieties of boots, and I really like when I can wear them again and kind of style them. I just wore my first pair of boots today, and I was like really excited that I could wear them here in Florida. Was it really cool enough? No, but that's okay.
No.
We're channeling those vibes. I don't care if it was or
It's
not.
it's cool
I
enough
wanted to
between
wear
the
them.
hours of
Yeah.
like 6 and like 9, and then
Yeah.
7 to midnight.
I'll take it. I'll take it. So there's a glimmer of hope that it's going to cool down. And so, yeah, boots I think are probably my staple that I get really excited about for this time of year. What about you?
I also love boots. I love a good ankle boot, especially since we can wear them oh so often. But definitely flannel. Like I love
Yeah.
layering. So flannels,
Oh yeah.
cardigans, um
Mhm.
the sweaters like you said, but like the big chunky ones that are
Yeah.
baggy. So yeah, those are my go-tos. Where it doesn't really get cold enough to wear scarves. I do love
No,
scarves, but
definitely.
it doesn't.
Maybe like January, February, we'll get like a couple snaps of cold where it's like in the
Right.
20s and we can actually legit wear a scarf, but it's not like you're carrying around a jacket and a scarf everywhere. No, definitely not.
Right.
I get that. I have a bunch of scarves actually, but I never get to wear them.
Well, that was like a millennial trend of wearing like those
Oh yeah,
infinity
the thin
scarves
one.
all the
Oh
time.
yeah,
Yeah. With
yeah.
the necklace, the owl necklace that
Oh,
everyone had
I had multiple owl
underneath.
necklaces. I will not be
Yeah.
shamed. I loved it. I don't care. I loved it. Yeah.
And then
The
beanies, wearing
huge
the
side
beanies in
swept
the
bang.
80
Like, you think I have
degrees
a side swept bang now? Listen,
with the
no.
beanie
It was
pinned
like,
barely to your head.
yeah. Oh my God. The pinned beanie. That was totally a thing. And then, like, I remember, like, my part was literally based off of the end of my eyebrow. That was like where I was like, oh, this is the part. Like, that's how much of a side part it was. And we're talking
Yeah.
severe side part. Yeah. Oh yeah, we totally did the clipping with the beanies. That was a big deal. Yep.
hmm
All right. Well, my mystery question for you is kind of about like a pet peeve thing,
Okay.
or if you would consider this one or not. So, scenario is you get a text from a colleague on a Friday that says, "Hey, scheduling a tag up for Monday at 9 a.m." A colleague is your super superior, so like a boss. No context, no other information. That's it.
So full
How are you
anxiety.
handling that information? Yeah. How are you handling that the rest of the weekend? Like, what's your immediate thought?
Honestly, my immediate thought would be like, fuck, what did I do? What did I do or what did someone else do that I have to clean up? Like that those are my two immediate things. Like, why would you on a Friday like you didn't need to. So now I'm like worried. I'm like, should I be worried for myself? Should I be worried for someone else? So no,
Yeah.
that is like
Is this
big
do we
fear.
consider this impolite? Like, how do
I
we feel?
honestly do. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And maybe that's because and some people don't actually have anxiety. So they
Yeah.
probably were like, I'm just trying to be considerate of your time and let you know on Monday I need you at like X, Y, and Z time. So those are like,
Yeah.
probably people I don't know those people. I'm not those people, but that's
No.
probably like
Yeah.
a fair thing. They might not
Yeah.
think it's impolite. Me as someone who is very anxiety prone thinks that is so rude and I would rather you send me a text or email at 8:30 be like, "Hey, I see your calendar's open for 9. You mind if popping
Yeah.
by?" That way I only have 30
Yeah.
minutes of anxiety,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a
That's
whole fucking
yeah.
weekend.
So I
That
asked you
would be
this
awful.
question because, yeah, this happened to me very
Oh,
recently. And I provided feedback after the fact, but yeah, this happened to me, and so I was, like, literally reeling, like, having anxiety stress dreams of, like, "Oh my god, what did I do wrong? Like, what is this coming from? Or, like, are we like, there what's going on? Or, like, what is happening?" This has to be something disastrous, and, like, the meeting notice is just, like, quick tag up 30-minute block, and I'm like, "For what? To do what? What are we for
what
where?
are we
Why?"
tagging?
Like, I don't know, and so, like, the anxiety. So, it turned out to be nothing, but
Okay.
the feedback I
As
shared
yeah.
following was like, "Hey, you know, it's very anxiety inducing sending a meeting notice without any context." I was like, "Please, in the future, if you're gonna do that, I don't mind. Just, like, put what the meeting is about.
But
Like,
context
just
or
give me."
don't do it.
Yes. Yeah, or just don't do it. Yeah, just wait until Monday.
Mhm.
And it was funny because like, my colleague is, like, much more type B and, like, very, very relaxed and very just, like, like, doesn't think like that at all, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "God, I envy you, but also, like, please never do that again." So that was I was just curious, like, I was really kind to him about it, but in my mind, I was, like, losing it. And my husband's like, "I'm sure it's fine, like, I'm sure it's nothing." But he also, like, doesn't like it either, and I think it kinda goes to it's it's rude to the over communicator. For the person who's, like, constantly thinking about others and, like, the person that's constantly like thinking about what their message is meaning and like who is rethinking text messages and conversations they had 10 years ago with people or like conversations they had in high school
When
and
I'm
they're like,
trying
wait a
to
minute, why did
sleep.
I say to them? Yeah, like
When I
me, the chronic overthinker does not function well with a hey, do you want to like tag up with no other information? Like that's just a big, absolutely not situation. So I
But he
had a
received
feeling
it
we would.
well?
He did, yeah, and he was like,
Okay.
"I could see that now." Like in hindsight, he's like, "I could see like why that might be troublesome." I'm like, "Yeah," and he also like know me, so he's like, "Yeah, I'm getting it." I'm like, "Great, never again."
Yeah, at
So
least it
I
was
was curious
received
what
well.
your thoughts were. Yes,
No,
it
for
was.
sure.
Yeah.
No, never do that to me. Give me like if you're gonna do like a Monday morning, please give me like more of a notice because if it's like on a Friday, I'm like, oh shit, what happened? Something must have happened. So yeah, no, I definitely anxiety overthinker over here. There are still things that I did when I was 13. I'm like, why the fuck did I do that?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
that
You're still like punishing yourself for
my
something
brain is
freaking.
like trying to sleep. Here's some stupid shit you said.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Trying to
tripped
relax
at
in the
this
shower.
moment.
No, yeah, trying to relax in the shower. Let me remind you of how horrendous you are, and maybe you were not on mute in that call and you thought you were, or
Oh,
maybe
I've
like
done that
whatever.
before.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh god, the horrors. Okay. Well, before we wrap up, let's talk about
Okay.
what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Next week, we're diving into parts 3 and 4 of Fallen and the Kiss of Dust by Carissa Broadbent. We are going to be having another guest joining us in parts 3 and 4, Jess of the Lost Books of Jess. You may follow Jess on Instagram. Lots and lots of reviews, incredibly kind, really, really great person. We're very, very excited to have her on. Looking forward to having us joining us and talk all things Crowns of Nyaxia. Also a huge fan of Crowns of Nyaxia and Carissa Broadbent. Cannot stop yapping about how much she loves those books. So naturally, we had to ask her to join us because we are also obsessed. So can't wait for you guys to hear that interview and join us then.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on The Fallen and The Kiss of Dusk, or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.